And welcome into Hoopsville, everybody, on a Thursday evening. We are rocking and rolling here on our sectional preview. Might notice a little bit of bog down, as it were, here on the show in the early parts. Don't worry, that will end relatively soon. We're literally finishing up in a matter of about a minute here the final videos that we of some pre-taped interviews from earlier. Got a lot of jammed in tonight's show, so we're actually going to get going relatively quickly, but a few notes. First and foremost, you can always interact with us, ask us questions, whatever the case may be. Tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on the Facebook Live chat room. Join us on the YouTube chat room, whatever the case may be. We'll try and get to your questions as best we can. A lot going on tonight, so bear with us. Obviously getting ready for sectionals. Got a lot of good games coming up. Who wins, who loses, to be determined. I'll certainly give you my take a little bit. I won't necessarily give you my picks. I am headed to Marietta this weekend, not only to see the games, but I will be calling the games at the Marietta sectional. So Whitman versus of Hardin-Simmons and Marietta versus Rochester. So I'm not going to give you my picks for those games since I'm calling those games. It just wouldn't be fair. So I'll at least give you some of my takes on a lot of what's going on. Obviously, whoever gets through this weekend is on to the championship weekends. Grand Rapids for women, Salem for men. I've been saying it, by the way, this is the 20th year for Salem and 19th championship. I'm wrong on that. It's the 21st year for Salem and 20th championship. I'm not sure how I got that messed up, but I know it. So we will be there, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the show. I should point out, Sunday we will normally be on the air at 7 o'clock Eastern time to recap the sectionals. Here's the deal. We have had a pretty lame winter here in the Mid-Atlantic region, and by lame, I mean we haven't even gotten an inch here in the Baltimore area of snow, even with a couple of storms that came in with some snow. They just didn't really dump anything or let it stick. That may change this weekend. It's a beautiful day today, and deja vu of a couple weeks ago or a month ago, it's going to be snowing tomorrow morning when I hit the road to get to Marietta, and probably sticking. There's potentially a storm on Sunday. Where it hits may affect my return trip home. If we are delayed for any reason, we will either broadcast a show Monday afternoon or Monday evening. So again, if we don't hit the air on Sunday as planned, and we certainly plan to do that, if we can't due to weather and the travel is just too much, or we can't figure it out, or there's some schedule conflicts, we will be on the air Monday afternoon or evening. We certainly don't look at that. I don't want to go on the air Monday. It takes a work day away from me as I get ready for Salem later in the week. So I will be aiming for a Sunday show. You can bet on that. Again, you can interact with us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or email us, hoopsville@d3, or I said that, tweet us at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of ways to get a hold of us. Lots to talk about in tonight's show, and we're going to be getting to it pretty much right away. Coming up in a moment, I'll be talking to Brian Morehouse, number 18 Hope women's basketball coach. Trevor Woodruff will join us on the show, 17th ranked Scranton women's basketball coach. Carse, Hardin-Simmons' men's coach, announced he's retiring, and he is heading home. Back to his childhood home area when he will with the team at Marietta. Ruth Sinn from the second-ranked St. Thomas women's basketball team will join us on the show. Michelle Fren from the number 16th ranked Whitman team. Kevin App from Williams' men's basketball team, and Giovanine from Augustana men's basketball. That's all ahead on the show. I just realized we forgot to hit record. So welcome into the podcast viewers who are just joining us. A quick couple of notes since you are just tuning in. And you don't want to miss any of the notes. We should point out a lot to cover at the end of the show. We will go over some of the thoughts I have on the sectionals, but again, no picks since I will be in Marietta this weekend and calling the games. So no picks from me, but some of my thoughts on how things may transpire. Secondly, Sunday's show, again, 7 o'clock Eastern time. However, if we hit any weather, and there is weather predicted potentially on Sunday coming back, it depends on if the storm stays south or not, we may be delayed. I don't expect to be delayed, but it could happen. As a result, we'll be on the air either Monday afternoon or Monday night, but I expect to be on Sunday. Stick with us on Twitter, and we'll certainly let you know what we're up to. And again, our guests for tonight, Brian Morehouse from Hope, Trevor Woodruff from Scranton, Craig Carse from Hardin-Simmons, Ruth Sinn from St. Thomas, Michelle Friends from Whitman, and Kevin App from Williams, along with Giovanine from Augustana. Speaking of which, I got a chance to talk to a lot of these guests before things got going, mainly because we have, they're traveling, and it's a little bit difficult for them to necessarily get everything done. But we did talk to a lot of these coaches prior to this show airing live. We start with Hope. Hope, again, beating Thomas More last weekend to basically get things rolling for them. And with the upset, certainly that was key. And having a pretty darn good season this year. We should expect it from Brian Morehouse. I got a chance earlier to talk to him here on the show. And now joining me on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline is Coach Brian Morehouse from the 18th ranked Hope team. And Coach, first and foremost, congratulations on making it to this weekend, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks. It never gets old to advance, and we're certainly excited about our trip to the Sweet 16 again.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it doesn't get old to some extent. Both the men and women for Hope doing very well. But let's talk with the big part about this. To get to this weekend, you had to take out the defending national champs at their place. They haven't lost at their place since November of 2012. This was a pretty significant win, and I remember watching a good part of it on the Whip Around show. And I don't know if saying you were in control is the right term, but you certainly were holding them at bay for most of the second half.
Well, I think they got off to a great start against us, and we talked to our team, in the day leading up to it, just about we're going to get knocked down from time to time in this game. I mean, they're that good, but we think we're good. And I said it's just a matter of getting back up off the mat and keep on fighting. Just keep us within striking distance after the first quarter. I thought that was a big key. We were down 19-11 and then went on a nice run to start the second quarter. And I think that really closed the gap for us. We eventually took the lead. And then it was really a back and forth nip and tuck game. And we were able to beat a great team, and certainly excited about that. I'm not sure that we went into that game thinking about anything historical or anything like that as far as the number of wins they had in a row or at home or anything like that. I mean, to us, they were another very good team on our schedule, much like the Wheatons and the St. Thomases and the Trines and the Calvins that we played this year and Stevens Points. I mean, very, very good team, but, we think that we've got a pretty good team too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people saw that matchup as a fascinating one, and I think a lot of people thought that would be the first time St. Thomas really got a true test this season. And I think some people thought either you or the winner of your game against Whitewater would come out of that. My only concern was the Whitewater game could easily beat you up a little bit and maybe wear you down for that Thomas More game. You did have a bit of a slugfest with Whitewater, 78-71, a very good first-round game. How did you guys recover, and what did you focus on to be ready for Thomas More the next day?
Sure. And I do think that was one of the best first-round games in the national tournament this year. I mean, I think it was highlighted even in the selection show as being, one of the premier games to watch, and it definitely played out that way. Both teams played very well, and it did take a lot out of our legs. Fortunately for us, we're a fairly deep team. And I think that, we were just ready for the challenge. We didn't really think about how tired we were. We looked at more the opportunity that we had, if we played well to advance. Unfortunately for us, one of our best players only played, 8-9 minutes that game, and Frankie Buchanan, our leading scorer, due to foul trouble. And so we really played shorthanded against Thomas More. But other kids stepped up to the task, and, we found a lot of grit in some kids that had to play some big minutes.
Yeah, you're right. I know I mentioned it on the selection show as being one of those games to watch in the opening weekend. Fun to see. Obviously at Thomas More, so a bit of a neutral court in a sense. When you went into when you got done with the Thomas More game, at what point did you guys realize, A, how significant that win was, but B, just what it did to set you up for this weekend?
I think we were really excited about winning, and I think we were excited about advancing to the Sweet 16. I think that we knew that we beat a very good team, Coach Hand's team from Thomas More to get there. But for us, the excitement was greater of where we were going than I think what we had just done. We want to play in big games. We expect to play well when we play in big games. And for us, we turned our attention to, Christopher Newport pretty quickly.
Yeah. This is a senior-laden team, 6 seniors on it. 3 of them are in the top 4 in scoring. Though you're led by a sophomore in Francesca Buchanan. It's 15.5 points a game for her. Also pulling down 5.5 rebounds, almost 6. And then it's 3 seniors, Mandy Traversa, Elizabeth Perkins, Angelique Gaddy, 9.9, 9.9, and I should say Perkins has only played seven games, so I apologize. And then Gaddy, 8.9, and Tyra Smith, a junior, 8.6. So certainly a lot of upperclassmen experience here. And so I almost feel like this is the kind of year that was kind of building for a while.
Yeah, I think, we want to be good every year.
Yeah, that's true.
But, I think that when you've got 6 seniors, you hope that you can rely on their experience and the fact that they played in a lot of big games and build off of that experience. And I always think having seniors on your team does one of 2 things. They either get scared of it being over and they don't play well, or they don't want it to be over and they raise their level of play. And this group of seniors has raised their level of play, in my opinion, in the high-level, high-pressure games this year, including last weekend.
When you look at this season, you played some good opponents out of conference. You took on Stevens Point. You took on St. Thomas, though St. Thomas nipped you guys. You had quite a few games in there that certainly tested you, but even the conference tested you this year. I think this might be at least the deepest the top has been, Calvin and Trine in the conversation, and many thought that would be the case. How well has the season prepared you for the NCAA tournament?
Well, we think pretty well. I'm a big fan of our league, and I'm also honest about our league. I think that there have been years where, it's been mostly hope, or it's been, Calvin's had a great team, and, everybody else has been following them. And, I really felt like our league was really good. Like you said, especially in the top tier of teams, are the teams that near the bottom. A lot of them have new coaches and are making huge strides. And I look for our league to be really, really good in the next 4 and 5 years. So, but we did get really well prepared by, the Calvin, Albion, and Trine in our league with a variety of different styles, with very good players and very good coaches.
After Calvin on the February 1st and beating them in overtime, you had 3 games against Kalamazoo, Olivet, and St. Mary's that weren't close. And the only reason I bring that up is then you ran into Trine and Calvin to close the season. Trine in the end of the regular season, Calvin in the semifinals of the conference. And they both got you. Calvin pretty much controlled the game and won 70-53, and then Calvin was close as always. I'll admit, I got worried. I saw those 2 losses and went, uh-oh, what happened here? Was that a gut check for this team and maybe part of what is going on now? Was it maybe a testament of just the grind of the season or just bad timing?
I think, first of all, both those teams are really good.
Yeah,
so
true.
Let's start with that. But the second part is, we were running through some pretty significant injury situations at that time. And again, if this is Division I and you're looking at, on the men's side, Duke's got a significant injury, everybody in the selection committee knows that, right? So they all know that Grayson Allen is hurt, right? Or they all know that, okay, well, they're playing a man down right now. At the Division III level, that information isn't prevalent. And so, we had to work our way through some injuries and certainly some illness through those games. And again, we may very well have lost those games anyway, but I was just grateful that we got into the national tournament, because then we got healthy over that next week, and we were the healthiest we've been last weekend in probably 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. That's significant.
So I think that played that played a big role. So, and so I think that timing is everything, right? I think in order to play well in the national tournament, you've got to be talented, you've got to be healthy, and then you have to have a good draw that matches up well with what your team is able to handle and do. The health part of it came around for us right then.
Looking at what's ahead, you've got Christopher Newport in the next round. You're playing those games at Ohio Northern. I don't know if you've ever played Christopher Newport. Certainly haven't played him as of late, I don't think. What do you expect in this game? What do you see in this team? They're certainly rather tall. And what do you think you can take advantage of? If anything.
Take advantage of, yeah. They're formidable. They're really good. Very well coached. I mean, I call a spade a spade. I mean, I think there are some teams that are better coached than others. And, we just have run into 3 in a row that I think are elite level coached. And, I'm really impressed with Christopher Newport. They play incredibly hard. Let's start with that. Yeah. And they play a style of play that is up-tempo, playing a lot of different people. So I think when you combine that along with, I think he does a great job of getting them into sets and getting them a great shot every time down the floor. They play a high tempo, they get turnovers, they get layups, but when they don't get layups, they usually get a really good shot on the rim because they run really good offense.
Obviously, on the other side of that, you've either got Geneseo, Ohio Northern. I know you haven't looked that far ahead. If you're able to get past Christopher Newport, though, it's not like it gets much easier, as we would expect, but it's certainly an interesting matchup on the other side, potentially.
Yeah, I think, again, you're looking at, Geneseo's overcome a lot of adversity, and I think it's really steeled them to be to handle, even the adversity of, being thrown from hosting a game to now we're driving to Ada, Ohio. I mean, for Geneseo, I would look at them as just saying, hey, that's just one more challenge for us. And, in Ohio Northern, traditionally incredibly strong. They've been the class of the OAC for a number of years now, playing very, very, very well. And certainly Coach Duran does a great job. They play up-tempo. They've got a nice balance in their team of inside-outside game, and they're playing at home, and they're awfully good at home.
People don't realize how long maybe you've been at Hope. You've been there since the 96-97 season. You haven't had less than 20 wins in a season since 99 when you first hit 20. You're used to going deep in the tournament, though it's been a while since you've gotten this far. It's been about 4 years. I know it doesn't get old, but after 520 some odd wins and a winning percentage in the high 800s, what drives you now?
The next practice, the next game, the next young woman that walks into my office and, you get to mentor them about not just basketball stuff, but getting jobs. I've got 6 seniors, and, we're sending them all off to grad schools and jobs immediately after they graduate in May. So the stuff that drives me is, just the opportunity that's right there in front of you, the immediacy of the next practice, the immediacy of the relationships that you have with your players, and, what can I do to serve my players? That's the number one thing. When I wake up in the morning, other than my family and my faith, I'm thinking about what do my players need for me that day. I'm not thinking about what do I need from them.
Well, Coach, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I always love hearing the frankness from you. That's one of my favorite parts. I can't believe we waited this long, but it's fun to talk to you ahead of the sectionals. Good luck against Christopher Newport, and if you win beyond that as well. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who are tuning in?
Well, it would be a great weekend if you wanted to talk to me next weekend.
That is true. We will pencil that in if hopefully you can get past. Well, good luck. Like I said, thanks for taking the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate
Absolutely.
the coverage.
Thank you. Brian Morehouse joining us from Hope. Great matchup ahead of them against Christopher Newport. Really, I can't wait to watch that game. I'm hoping to see some of it. It's going to be a fascinating X's and O's matchup. And on the other side, Geneseo versus Ohio Northern as well. So we're getting our interviews underway, and we got plenty more ahead. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll stay with the women's theme. We'll talk to Scranton, who's in St. Louis, to take on Tufts. It's a rematch of the Elite Eight game last year in a different location and a different round. Can Scranton get past the Jumbos this time? We'll talk to Trevor Woodruff coming up in a minute. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. There's a lot more ahead, so stay tuned right here, and we'll be back after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. and we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
When George Fox University was founded in 1891, its creators envisioned two things: a challenging educational experience and a community where students could deepen their faith. 125 years later, the core of who we are remains unchanged, and our focus on the whole person, our Be Known promise, remains as vibrant and relevant today as it was back then. At George Fox University, you'll never be a number. You will be known.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. We're just getting rolling here on Thursday evening and looking ahead at the sectionals. If you got questions for us, we'll try and answer them, especially at the end of the show. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Tweet us at D3Hoopsville or use the hashtag Hoopsville. You can also join us on Facebook Live or our YouTube page, wherever. We have a lot of avenues to answer questions, so bear with us. We'll try and answer them when we get the opportunity. Going to keep things moving along because we got a lot to jam into tonight's show. Our next guest up is a team that under just 2 years of head coaching from Coach Trevor Woodruff have almost maybe gone further ahead than expectations. Scranton Royals have a long storied history. They are a perennial top 25 team, a perennial NCAA tournament team. Trevor Woodruff walks in the door and the level has changed. The bar has been raised, and they're once again in the second weekend. This time, though, out in St. Louis versus getting to enjoy things a little bit on the East Coast. How's the weather? Who knows? But how's the temperature of the tournament? Let's go to the city of Salem Hoopsville hotline, and joining us there, Trevor Woodruff of the 17th ranked Scranton Royals and coach. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thanks, Dave. Always a pleasure.
I don't think anyone's surprised you guys are having a good season anymore. Clicking right along, but you certainly had an interesting weekend last weekend. You led for all of 0.6 of a second against University of New England, and even SUNY IT gave you a bit of a game. I don't want to say that means anything more than women's basketball has gotten a little bit more difficult, and now you're facing tougher opponents earlier on.
No question. I would agree with that 100%. When I turned the film on of UNE, I couldn't believe that was a first-round game because they had size. They had kids that could make plays, make shots. They're extremely well coached. And when you look at their history, especially recently, they've done nothing but win. So it certainly was a situation where we couldn't sleepwalk and try to work ourselves into the tournament. We were going to have to play right away. And as you said, it wasn't a work of art, but we did just enough to win the game.
Yeah, just enough. You guys were 3 for 21 from beyond the arc. Bridget Mann, who's certainly usually pretty good, it was 1 of 11. That one being the winning shot with 0.6. And I'll admit, we were watching it. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. How big was that shot? And leading up, were you guys starting to lose confidence that maybe you could get past UNE? I mean, at some point, the question marks had to start creeping into the minds.
Yeah, I think it's probably normal when you go through an entire game and the ball just doesn't seem to go in, that you start to hang your head a little bit and question whether or not it's your night. But to the credit of our players, they just kept grinding. I thought defensively late in that game we were really good against a good offensive team, which gave us a chance. We made just enough plays. Sarah Payunk had a huge steal possession before we got the final shot, just to even give us an opportunity for that moment to happen. So, when we were in the timeout before the last play, we drew it up, and Bridget said afterwards in the press conference, her first thought was, "Why is he drawing this for me?" Because she'd been 0 for 10 at that point, but really in our minds, we never even questioned who we were going to run the play for. It was just a matter of how and who was going to get it to her. So, fortunately, we got her the ball, and she made a huge shot at the right time.
I could see that moment happening, and you saying maybe if there's anybody got any questions and understand what we're doing. I could see her raising her hand going, "Are you sure? Are you positive?"
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, after the game, we were in the locker room, and my assistant held up the marker board. They didn't erase it after we drew up the last play, and they said, "Coach, can you believe this play worked?" Because you look at the marker board, and it's just black marker all over the place. You couldn't see who was who and where they were going. It was just a mess, yet it worked. And just kind of some laughs after the fact. I guess if we had lost, it wouldn't have been so funny.
No. If you had lost, the season might have looked like that marker board just a little bit. And then you took on SUNY IT in the next game, and you had to have been watching their game earlier on and watching Steve Uray put up 43 points and thinking to yourself, "Oh, come on."
Well, it wasn't that she got 43. She got 43 in coast mode. Like it hardly looked like
it wasn't hard.
Yeah. No, she made it look so easy, and they were playing a good opponent, and she's different than other kids that I've seen at the Division III levels, and her ability to put the ball in the basket from everywhere at any time with a single defender, a double team. It just doesn't matter when she's got it going. You're virtually helpless. So that made the quick turnaround pretty difficult because you try to put a scout together for somebody that can do whatever they want. It's almost virtually impossible to really stop them.
You ended up beating them by 11. It was somewhat tight for most of the game. You went from shooting 3 for 20 from beyond the arc from 5 to 21. Are you a little bit worried about the shooting woes? What appears to be shooting woes at this point? Granted, your regular shooting was up about 17%, but your outside shooting seems to have been missing last weekend.
Well, yeah, sure. You're always concerned. I'm not going into the game tomorrow saying I hope we miss. Obviously we know we're going to have to make shots, and just getting shots against toughs is sometimes the biggest part of the battle. And then if you're able to get them, you better shoot them quick because you're not open for very long. Yeah. So, we're going to have to make some shots. There's no question. We're going to need some people who maybe haven't made a lot of shots the whole season to step up, someone off our bench, our role players to make some shots. So, when you go into a game like this against this type of opponent, you've got to do just about everything right, and certainly make shots is a big one of those.
When you look at this team, Alexis Roman leads the way. She's your inside presence at 6'1", 17 points a game, shoots 61% from the field, 71% from the free throw line. By the way, 157 attempts at the free throw line. It's just ridiculous number for anybody. Bridget Mann, second, 13.5. Sarah Payunk, 11 points a game, 9.4 rebounds. So you've got those two inside presence, and then you've got the outside in Mann, and of course some other players. I don't want to leave them out, but Payunk's got your most assists, Mann's got your second most assists. So it's really this 3-player kind of team in some senses. But there's more to that. What is the more than that?
Well, I think like most good teams around the country, it's not just one or two people. It's we've got tremendous role players that fill in the gaps for us, and it's no secret who we go to, who our first and second pitch are. But if you leave Mackenzie Uri open, she's going to make a shot. If Katie Broderick, all the guards that we play, and even the substitutes, Denise Rizzo, our first sub on the interior, these kids can play. And and maybe in some other programs that don't have 3 players like we have, these girls would play a lot more, and their statistics would be way up. It's just, they understand what the situation is, what their role is. And at this point, I couldn't be happier with how they've fulfilled their role for us.
This season started off 16-0. I saw you at game number 14 when you won that one. I wouldn't say anything shocked me or surprised me. It's about what I expected from you. Maybe a little bit down, but the opponent, can have a lot to do with that, certainly. But then 2 games later, things kind of seemed to unravel a little bit. Catholic finally nipped you in overtime. I don't think a big surprise, though it was at the Long Center. You beat True, and then you lost to Elizabethtown and Moravian. So you lost 3 out of 4. And I remember thinking to myself, what's happening here? What am I missing? Is maybe what I saw at game 14 was really true, that they're not as, blow away spectacular. But at the same time, you came out of that and you've won 9 since. What happened during that stretch, and what is different now about the team from that stretch?
Well, I can't tell you exactly what it was. I know the thing we put our finger on was the defense. We simply were not playing defense at the way that we had for a year and a half to that point.
Yeah.
And when you look at the numbers, for example, we lose to Catholic. They scored, you probably have it in front
82.
of you, 82 points.
Yep.
When you look at the next 2 times we played them, at the end of the regular season and then in the conference final, I think they scored 88 combined or something in 2 games. And so when you look at that, I think we kind of figured out that it was our defense. We were giving up too many easy baskets. And so we just went back to basics. And we sat the girls down and said, here's the issues as we see them. And if we don't change, then we're going to keep having losses. And nothing's guaranteed, no conference championship, no NCAAs. And they really bought in. And some of our younger kids got better. We made some adjustments to the rotation. We decided to go with maybe more defensive-minded players. That's when Lily Warhafta came into our rotation. She's been a really bright spot for us down the stretch. So that to us is what it was. Our defense in the last 8 or 9 games has been back to what we expect it to be.
Yeah, and certainly the scores indicate that. Low scoring. You're right. The next few games against Catholic, they scored 44 and then they scored 42. So they hit their total from the previous game with 2 extra points. Yeah. So it is defensive minded. How concerned are you? I mean, it feels to me like you're a team that needs to not dominate, but have defense control the tempo and not necessarily be one of those come from behind in a high scoring affair. That is not going to work for you.
Oh, that's probably accurate. I don't think we're a team that wants to score to get into the high 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
I think on any particular day we could play that type of game, but we're certainly more methodical. The way I talk to our girls is we want to play fast and aggressive, but we don't want to shoot when our big players, our inside players are back behind half court and haven't gotten down the floor yet. So we have to be smart about tempo and certainly run when the opportunity presents itself, but understand that our bread is buttered with our inside players, so we got to make sure they get touches.
Well, and interestingly enough, you're going to take on Tufts yet again. You played them in the Elite Eight last year at your place. They've got the same mentality. They want to be defensive minded. They want to have low scoring affairs. This is no surprise to you. You could probably go back to last year's tape and just re-scout from that point. But what do you need to do to get past Tufts this time? What did you learn maybe last year? What have you seen this year that you realize that's going to be our key?
Well, you're right. I think in a lot of ways the teams are mirror images in terms of style of play. Their strengths and our strengths kind of reflect one another, both inside first with capable guard play. To me, it really, in a game like this where you have 2 defensive-minded teams, it really comes down to, and it sounds crazy, it comes down to the offense. Who can make some plays? Because you just figure there's not going to be a lot of easy baskets for either team. You're going to have to work for everything. And, whoever can finish through contact and get a big three-point play, or if you do break someone free on the three-point line, who makes the shot? It sounds simplistic, but 2 good defensive teams, somebody on offense generally is going to have to make a shot or 2, and that'll be the difference in the game, or, it could be the free throw line, things like that. So it's going to be a close game, I imagine. I don't see us blowing them out, and hopefully if we play to our potential, they won't blow us out. So whoever makes a shot at the end probably is going to have the best chance to win. It sounds simplistic and silly, but That's the way I see it.
And then on the other side, I know you haven't looked that far ahead, but should you beat Tufts, you've got either WashU or Oshkosh waiting, which is certainly going to be a different style altogether. Can you guys get, I mean, this is an unfair question in some ways, is can you get out of the weekend? But more along the lines of, is your team situated or, have the experience from last year to feel like, we can get out of this weekend?
Well, I know when we started the season, we asked the girls to sit down like most teams and, talk about, let's put our goals on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first thing that they said. We want to go to the Final Four. So I know that's in the back of their mind. I think they understand the challenge that's ahead of us. You're going to have to beat 2 ranked teams, no matter how you look at it. Potentially 2 in the top 6, I think, in the most recent rankings.
Yep.
And 1 potentially on their home court. So, if we're able to be playing next weekend, it's almost like we got to the Final Four already, because this feels like a Final Four pod to me as I look at it. I don't know a whole lot. I'm still learning the women's game, but
yeah.
I knew the name of WashU, and I knew the name of Tufts, and I knew the name of Oshkosh before I ever coached women's basketball. So that means they've been doing things right for a long time.
Yeah, no, you're right. Carla Berube, Brad Fisher, and Nancy Fay have been around just a little bit. They kind of know their stuff. Quickly, before I let you go, you are new to this. Obviously, we've talked before about that. Not going to rehash that all. But how your transition, now that we're talking to you 2 full seasons in, what are your thoughts on the transition to women's game? You certainly seem perfect for it.
Well, I appreciate that. My players may disagree. I know we have some fans who definitely disagree. I could forward you those emails if you want me to.
I might be getting them too.
But I've enjoyed it. I've been spoiled certainly with the caliber of players that I inherited, and the level of program that I inherited. There are a lot of people who could have gotten this job and had the same sort of success. So, I'm not taking that for granted. I understand that. We've got a lot of work ahead of us to keep this thing where it is, and I feel blessed to be here and have the opportunity to coach them.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us. Congratulations on another tremendous season for the Royals. Keep raising the bar there, certainly, and that's impressive to say the least. As always, give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, as always, Dave, every chance I get to tell you what a great job you do, I want to do that because you do. And the work that you guys do is a lot of times thankless, I'm sure. But in Northeast PA, we appreciate it. And I'd also like to give a shout-out to all those people that are back in Scranton and the surrounding area that support us and do everything they can to make our girls feel special. I know they appreciate it. And as the coach, I couldn't be prouder of where I work and live.
Well, that is well said. Thank you for the kind words. I'm sure they'll be enjoying the games as much as the rest of us. Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon, I am sure.
Okay, take care, Dave. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Trevor Woodruff, again, joining us from the 17th-ranked Royals. He's right. It's going to be no matter what, if they get out of this weekend, they will have proven themselves certainly on the national scale. Not that they haven't already, but these are 2 very difficult games should they be able to win. We'll be keeping an eye on them. Fascinating to see the matchup. I love it. It's out at WashU. I know Scranton fans don't love it, but I like that these student athletes get a chance to play at different places and to be able to play at a place that is the UConn of Division III, and well before UConn existed and about when Tennessee was starting to come on. When you get a chance to play at WashU that is so rich in the Division III history, that's an outstanding opportunity, and I hope the Scranton team enjoys it. Win or lose, I hope they get to enjoy that. When we come back, we'll switch gears, talk men's basketball. Craig Carse has already announced he is retiring at the end of this season. We've known that for a little bit of time, but he finally made it official. So we'll talk to him about that decision, about going home in the sectionals against and basically 15 miles from his house. He will get a chance to take his team and play for the chance to go to Salem. What that means to him in his final season, that's all coming up. We'll talk to Hardin Simmons. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville after this.
Educate your student body, faculty, staff, and local community on how to prevent sexual assault and how to support survivors.
To recognize that non-consensual sex is sexual assault. To identify situations in which sexual assault may occur.
To intervene in situations where consent has not or cannot be given.
To create an environment in which sexual assault is unacceptable and survivors are supported.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
At George Fox University, our promise is that every student will be known, personally, academically, and spiritually. To be known means professors and staff know you by name. It means you're valued, encouraged, and challenged. It means we'll listen to you and with you as you pursue God's call in your life. At George Fox University, you will never be a number. You will be known. Visit georgefox.edu to learn more.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this show. We're rolling around here on this Thursday. Lots to jam in. I want to thank the coaches so far that have appeared. Going to switch gears, talk men's basketball now. If you didn't see the article earlier on d3hoops.com this week, Hardin Simmons head coach Craig Carse has announced that he is retiring at the end of the season. It's something that we've known for a little bit of time, but he wasn't ready to announce it. I think when you're coming home to Marietta, basically coming back to a place that he grew up 15 miles from, probably spurns the idea. His team is into the sectionals. They will take on number 1 Whitman. They will be playing 15 miles from where he grew up and in an area he started coaching basketball. What does it all mean to him? Well, Coach Carse joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline, sponsored by the City of Salem. And, Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Thank you, Dave. It's good to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time. First and foremost, I'd be remiss not to say that, we've talked about this. We kind of knew that this was going to be the end of the season. It seems fitting, though, that you get to the season will either end or you get to go to the championship weekend via your home area.
It's just remarkable in my philosophy. I have to believe it's what some people call an omen. And for me, Virginia, my family has originated. Some parts of my family have originated in that part of Virginia, in the Salem area, over towards Petersburg, and then Marietta, Ohio, just across the river from where I grew up, a town where we kind of did a lot of our shopping and going to movies and different things. So it's very nice to see some of your stomping grounds that you started on, and to be able to wrap up your career in an area like that.
When's the last time you were in the area?
It's been about 3 years.
Okay.
And my father passed about 3 years ago, and I was here to wrap things up. My mother and brothers had already passed, so I was here about 3 years ago. But this is where my home is. This is where my wife is from, and so this is our roots.
It certainly is, as I said, fascinating that you get to come home to those roots in a sense with your team. Your team's playing pretty darn well. We'll get to them in a moment, but your career is pretty storied, to say the least. You're one of the rare coaches that has coached at every divisional level of the NCAA plus the NAIA. You and I have talked in the past. We won't rehash, but your success at LSU and your recruits, even before LSU, of success not only in college level like the Shaquille O'Neals, but onto the NBA level. But you really seem to have had an affinity for the small college, whether it be Bethany or West Virginia State University, or out in Montana at the D2 level, or at Hardin Simmons. It feels like D3 or the small college has certainly been your calling.
It's been a major part of my life, Dave. I grew up in a very, very small community in West Virginia, a coal mine town, give or take 2,000 people. I think at this time about 1,300. But back in our heyday. I think we were around 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to the D3 route to a school called Bethany College, which was north of where I grew up. Like Marietta is just across and south.
Yep.
But Marietta is in Ohio, Bethany's in West Virginia. And I coached there, got started with a man named Jim Daffler, who's a legend at Westminster College, which is D3.
Mm-hmm.
Actually was at Marietta College and Capital University. And so I got my start there, and it's just kind of in my blood, that level. I love D3 because their players are paying to play, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they're not crying about, I need a stipend, or already have a full scholarship, but I need a stipend and another pair of shoes. Most of the kids at D3 buy their shoes. Most of the kids at D3 are excited after the game to stop at McDonald's or get the choice to stop at in Texas Whataburger. And then we do our pregame meals with Subway. So it's kids that really love to play basketball. The ironic thing is the NCAA does not allow us to coach these kids except from October 15th until the end of the season, to where, as you know, the D1s and D2s, they're working with those kids now all year round.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just love the purity of it. I've always loved basketball. I knew in 1966 when I was at a state tournament in Huntington, West Virginia with my high school, I just knew this is what I want to do. And for me not to coach now, it's I have no idea what I'm going to do, but for health purposes, I naturally need to step away.
Yeah.
And I have no concept of what it's going to be like, because I am soon to be unemployed and unbenefited, and I don't know. I've been telling those ladies at Walmart that I'm going to take that job where you come in the door and say, "Hey, how you doing?" But I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
We talked a little bit about your health and stuff back at the D3Hoops.com Classic. That's kind of where your team kind of emerged out of the season. You guys were pretty banged up early on. Hadn't had the best of starts. I mean, not a bad start by any stretch of the imagination, but 4 losses by that point compared to 7 wins or 6 wins. And then we saw you, or you got, I should say 7 wins, 7-4 coming in. And then you saw Salisbury, and you beat Salisbury, who was ranked. And then you saw Wheaton, and you beat Wheaton, who was ranked. And since that Shriner game, you've won 18 of 20. This team seems to be clicking along pretty nicely. The only 2 losses came back-to-back against Concordia and Sul Ross State. Otherwise, this squad has played pretty darn well and played all kinds of different scoring games.
Yes. We, when we saw you in Las Vegas, Dave, we never had our starting 5 together in one game until we got to Vegas. Salisbury is the first time that we had everybody there. And since then, as you said, we've gone on a nice run. I really don't believe that we've even I know we haven't got close to our potential. We're getting a little better here and there, but we just play depending on matchups and depending on who we're playing and how we have to play, to find ways to win. But we're still putting it together. We have 7 seniors, and when you have 7 seniors and 1 junior that really plays, and Caleb Spoon, and we're still scratching it together. But I think that happens at D3 because these kids have to be developed. Nathaniel Jack and Dwayne Hopper, who are 2 mainstays of ours, they didn't even get off the bench as freshmen. They came in and just developed, and now as seniors they're still developing. And I think that's the way it is across the board. But we do have 7 seniors, and they're very mature, and they have been there and they've done it, and they've been in championships ever since they were freshmen. But we feel very good about where we are, and that we'll represent ourselves well.
You're picking a fine year to leave. Nothing against the program, but 5 of your seniors are the leading scorers on the team, and 5 of the 6 double figures. Nathaniel Jack leads the way, nearly 19 points a game, 12 rebounds a game. Christian O'Neill at 16 points a game. Justin Jones, a preseason All-American, at 13 points a game. DeShaun Dixon, nearly 13 points a game. And Dwayne Hopper, 12 points a game. All of them great, but it's amazing the talent you have in Nathaniel Jack. He's an every tool guy. In baseball they call him a 5-tool guy. He can do everything. He contributes in every way. And what I'm amazed by is, as good as he is, and as much as he can do everything, like a Magic Johnson back in the day, he makes his teammates better.
Yes, you're exactly right, Dave. He he came in here about 6'1", 168, and now he's about 6'3.5", 190s. And we told him the other day, hey, you made Player of the Year in the South Region. He goes, oh, yay. And so that'll make you a first-team All-American. He said, yay, I'm going to take a nap. And that he doesn't – our guys, they don't even want awards. They don't even want to hear that. They don't even like it. They just want to win. And they all feed off each other. Justin is really our guy, but he had knee injury less than 5 minutes into our first game, and we played the second game, and you play emotional when you lose a guy like that, and we won. And then the third game, they found out that he was going to have ACL or MCL surgery, and he would be done for the year. And that day, we found out right before the game, and our kids just went poop. And that game, it's the only time we got beat all year to really get beaten. We got beat, and we were playing a team, TLU, that had everybody back, and we'd beaten them the year before in the NCAA. And so they were ready to play, and they got us. And then on Monday, the doctors MRI'd and said, hey, it isn't what we thought, and we're going to be able to get him through the season. But he nurses it every day. And, they're deep bruises in the knee and different things that he had. So he's never been himself. As you know, he's one of the top 5 shot blockers, I think, now in Division III history in the last couple years. And he didn't even make all conference in our league. That's kind of interesting. But a lot of our guys didn't make any of that. But he's really the straw that stirs the drink. But Jack that's his roommate. That's his best friend. They don't do anything without each other. And they're just inseparable. And Jack just said, hey, Justin's out. I'm going to pick up the slack. And then every game, Jack said, hey, I'm going to help because I know he's really hurting today. There are days he couldn't even walk. And now, Jack has really developed himself, as you saw out in Vegas.
Yeah.
And he developed his talents, which is what's beautiful about Division III. Kids that they got overlooked because they weren't ready yet. They're not big enough, strong enough, fast enough, or he was from a little tiny, tiny town in Mart, Texas. And he developed his game, and he's just starting to learn how to play basketball. He's become real good, but I think he definitely could have at least been a quality D2 player.
Before we let you go, I got to ask you about Whitman, the number 1 team in the country, undefeated coming in. Certainly a good test. I think you guys have played some Northwestern schools, if not Whitman, in the past. But I just don't remember when. I know some Texas schools have played some of those Northwestern schools in previous seasons in a way of just kind of getting those cross-town type things taken care of. What have you seen with Whitman? Cross-town, cross-country.
Sure.
What have you seen in Whitman? What do you expect in this game? This one's going to be one of those marquee events, if not all of them, but certainly this one will have a lot of eyes on it.
Well, Dave, when you look at this pod that we're in, it's almost – I would seriously doubt that, and not to take anything away from anybody, but I would seriously doubt that the Final Four next week will have 4 teams as strong as are potentially in this pod. And with Whitman, we have not played them. There have been teams in our area like Schreiner and TOU and them this year that played them. Seems like most of the time when our people play them, it's at their place.
Yeah.
They do a wonderful job scheduling. I think Whitman had 21 home games this year and, 20-some games in that part of the country. I do know they went to Florida, and they and Marietta had a good shootout in Florida. But they're not going to change for who they play. They're one of those programs that you have to stick with your style and system and be patient, which takes maturity, which I think we have in our 7 seniors. There are a couple sophomores and juniors and even a freshman. So I do think our kids will be able to work towards running our style and system and not falling into, going in towards what they do, which is an up-tempo pace, a forcing of turnovers, force 21 turnovers a game, and getting to the rim a lot from those turnovers. So I know they're not going to change their game, and they shouldn't, and we're not going to change our game. So I think it'll just be a wonderful game of wills, and I think it'll be an exciting game. I think it'll be fun. They're very tough. Their kids are really tough. They're mentally, physically, emotionally tough. They're very well coached, naturally. They and Whitworth are 2 teams that almost are twins, and they both are just wonderful Division III programs. And I feel bad for them that they're not hosting a tournament, being a number one team, but being in that part of the country, I feel bad for us because we have some teams in our conference that, Concordia, Laterno, Mary Hardin Baylor on a given night. There's so many teams in our league, Sul Ross, that are easily could be here doing the same thing that we're doing. And, but we're located in an area too, where we've been just getting one out of our league in. And, it's a tough part of the country, Washington and Texas. And as you know, California, and then there's nothing there for the Nevadas and Montanas and Dakotas and Utahs and Idahos. And, it's a Division III is a large number of schools, but it's an Eastern type of mentality and now Midwest. And I'm well aware of that because that's where I started.
Exactly.
And I was part of that. And first time I got on an airplane, went from Pittsburgh to Indianapolis for Bethany to play Rose Holman. So came into Pittsburgh yesterday, and I said, this is the first time I was ever on an airplane. I don't want to even begin to guess how many times I've been on an airplane or what parts of the world since. So it's going to be fun. It'll be a blast. It's fun we're just having a blast. We just really enjoy each other. And when it ends, we know it's going to end in 10 days at the latest, or it's going to end in a day. And we have been so blessed to have had this time together. It's just been, they talked me into coming back and last spring, and then some of them came to Montana last summer and drove all the way up there, Dwayne Hopper and Justin Jones and Nathaniel Jack, and about 1,300 miles, and spent a few days at my home and talked me into coming back.
That's pretty amazing.
I really haven't done anything. These kids have done it all, and I just ride on the bus. Well,
Coach, you've done a lot in your career. We have appreciated what you've done in Division III. We certainly look forward to seeing what your team may be capable of doing this weekend. Before we let you go, though, we want to give you the chance, as we do with all guests, to get the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, I really appreciate what you guys do, Dave. I've been on that highest level at Division I and been with programs that were top in the nation and been in 30-some-odd national games, tournament games. And what you guys do, you don't get to see it every day. You don't see on the ticker the NCAA scores from Division III. You don't hear the news, Division III. We don't have a lot of news of bad news, from the Division III levels. But if it wasn't for people like you, and they are few, Division III would have basically no visibility of any kind out there. So what you do, our kids watch and listen to you guys every day. And because you are their ESPN, you are their voice. And I can't thank you enough, because you're not making the big dollars, I'm sure, because I'm not. And that's just fine. We're not going to break the 10th commandment and covet about what all those other guys get. But what you do is more appreciated than you guys will ever know.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that, sir, especially coming from you. With your storied history, I really do appreciate those words.
As my wife would tell you, and I have to get this in, with 49 cents, you can take my career and go to the post office and buy one stamp. So...
Your wife keeps you grounded, sir, does she not?
Yes, she does.
Mine does too. Well, congratulations. I will look forward to seeing you. I'll be in Marietta this weekend.
Awesome.
Yep, I'll look forward to seeing it. Look forward to the game. Good luck. Good. And besides me seeing you soon, I realize this, who knows if this will be the last time we've seen you or talked to you on Hoopsville. But thank you for taking the time to join us on the show in your career.
You have a great evening, Dave.
Thank you, Greg. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Coach Greg Carse joining us from Hardin-Simmons. They will take on the number 1 ranked Whitman squad coming up in Marietta. Game time, 5 o'clock. Should note, Marietta doing a split session, as is Babson, 5 and 8 o'clock, and they have sold the building out. These are going to be 2 awesome games in Marietta. I am very much looking forward to being out there and calling the games. We are way behind schedule, so we're going to get going. Coming up next, we go back to some women's basketball. We'll go up to Minnesota. By the way, in this interview, you're going to hear me reference St. Thomas as being in Minneapolis. If it's not this one or the Whitman interview, I do mean St. Paul. I just completely misspoke. But coming up, we talk to St. Thomas's head coach, followed by Whitman's head coach in women's basketball, then Williams' men's basketball coach, and then Augustana's men's basketball coach. That's all ahead here on Hoopsville. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and NABC Studios. A ton more still ahead.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
At George Fox University, our promise is that every student will be known, personally, academically, and spiritually. To be known means professors and staff know you by name. It means you're valued, encouraged, and challenged. It means we'll listen to you and with you as you pursue God's call in your life. At George Fox University, you will never be a number. You will be known. Visit georgefox.edu to learn more.
Defining moments. Championship dreams. Share the experience with your family and friends. The 2017 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 17th and 18th at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia. Visit ncaa.com/tickets for your tickets today.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you are enjoying our Thursday edition, our sectionals preview. What twist is coming next is the question we're all wondering. Well, it's because it's been a fun first weekend, as we've all talked about. Second weekend is on tap, and we're getting ready for it. I just got done talking to Coach Craig Carse at Hardin-Simmons. We're going to switch gears now, talk women's basketball, and talk to the number 2 team in the country. They are hosting the NCAA second weekend, and they'll get an interesting foe in Marymount the first round. The St. Thomas Tommies having almost the best season in school history. They're just short of that mark, but they'd love to improve on that particular season. And getting past this weekend would certainly do in part to do that. So joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline is the head coach of the Tommies women's basketball program, Ruth Sinn. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville again.
Thank you for having us. We're really excited to be in this position and have this opportunity.
I appreciate you taking the time. First and foremost, I find it somewhat interesting. Beginning of the season, you came all the way out to our neck of the woods in Westminster, Maryland on the first weekend of the season to be at the McDaniel tournament. I'm kicking myself because we had the Hoopsville Classic about 15 minutes away and we couldn't get up to see you. But it was it's a different start than you normally have done. I haven't seen you on the East Coast all that often.
No, we haven't. We usually go to the West Coast. It used to be where you needed to have regional opponents that you had to do with your non-conference. And I think it was about 2 years ago that the NCAA says it just needs to be regionally ranked opponents. So then we decided, let's go out east. Let's see what kind of basketball that is, and let's have that experience. And it was fantastic for our young ladies to see a different style of basketball than what we see in the Midwest and the West. Yeah,
you certainly did. And Juniana and McDaniel, interesting enough, the scores were almost identical. Beat Juniana 77-43, beat McDaniel 74-43. Came back and got right back into the into the Central region and West region in Gusto, taking on Stevens Point. And then at that point you started clicking along. And you even headed out and played a tournament out in Bluffton. Even got a chance to play Hope. Got some good opponents in there before getting into what everybody knows is a very jam-packed MIAC schedule. Was there a certain point in this season that you kind of knew that this special year was upon you, that maybe you could pull off what you're pulling off right now?
Well, last year when we finished the season, we graduated only one starter, only one starter and one senior. And so we returned the core of our group, and they were hungry. We made it to the Sweet 16. We lost in the first round of the Sweet 16. And so I think they, from that point on, they were kind of like we wanted more, and we needed to understand that we've got a special group. So if we can really work hard and improve, and that's why we kind of embarked on the schedule that we did, is because we knew that we wanted to be challenged. I have a quote in my office that says, "If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you." And so we really have focused on just really being challenged and trying to get to our best level. And so the girls have done a really nice job with that. And so we put forth our best effort.
When you look at the history of this program, 2012 31-2, 2015, the year we were alluding to, went 30-0 before losing the first game of the season, of course, in the NCAA tournament, which I know stung. Lost to Thomas More in the sectional finals, I believe, Elite Eight. So we're kind of
correct.
Kind of knocking on the door of that one again. Obviously, hosting sectionals this time, which is a little bit different. Actually, I don't even know. Have you ever hosted sectionals before?
Last year.
Oh, was it last year? That's right.
Last year was the first time that we had ever had the opportunity to host the sectional, and we hosted and we lost that first night.
Yeah,
so,
how easy I can forget.
Yeah, no, that's okay, but we don't forget because we
right.
watched Wartburg cut down our nets.
Exactly, Wartburg did, and of course Wartburg ended up being in the same pod as you, and luckily you've missed them this time. But my question for you though is, you've been knocking on the doorstep, and I've had a lot of people ask me this question all season: is this the team that can kind of break through, as it were, not only maybe get out of this weekend and get on to the championship weekend, but potentially, without too much pressure, go on and maybe contend for a national championship? Is what's making this team different? Is this the team that can do it?
Well, this team is one of the things that's very special about this group is that they've really bought into what us as coaches are talking to them as having a really narrow focus. Because, like, when you do have expectations and, the undefeated season, there can be pressure. And we have not looked at it at all in that aspect. We have kept our focus on opportunity and how do we improve and how do we grow. And so this team has gone ahead and done those things just by keeping a narrow focus on what's important now. And what's important is this game. And so right now, our only focus is the Sweet 16 and Marymount. And Marymount's got a great team with a lot of balance. They run a fantastic system where they're all so disciplined to it. And so, because we kind of really just focused on what we have control over now, that's put us in the position to be able to be 29-0 and be in this position.
We'll talk a little more about Marymount in a minute, but I want to ask you about the conference a little bit. The conference in the last couple of years has certainly gotten better, especially at the top and deeper. One game ahead of Gustavus Adolphus. You guys had a fascinating regular season matchup and a tremendous championship matchup. Bethel was only 2 games back. A little bit of a drop-off when you get to St. Benedict and St. Catherine, but nonetheless, 3 teams at the top is not what we've normally talked about. How much has that depth also helped your team maybe prepare for this NCAA tournament run? And this is going to sound a little strange. I know you don't play a double round robin anymore, but do you almost wish you maybe got an extra game with Gustavus in there or whatnot to give yourself an extra challenge during the season?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Maya conference, and I know everyone says this when they come onto your show, but everybody's conference prepares them,
sure,
to be their best, because your conference opponents know you inside and out. And so a lot of times you can't play to your strengths. You're having to play, to that next option. And Gustavus and Bethel were great representation of our conference. I mean, Bethel was a team that only lost to Gustavus and up, and they were just playing so well at the end of the season. And then Gustavus, and I know you had Coach Kelly on the show after we had our one Maya conference game down at Gustavus, where they had 3,000 people in attendance for a Division III game. It was just fantastic. I told the girls before we even started, I said, just look at this. This is awesome. This is why we play, ladies. Enjoy every minute of this. And so it's been fantastic. But I agree with you. That's the downside of not going a double round robin is because we only get the quality opponent like Gustavus and Bethel. It's on a draw situation, so you don't know. But this year, it would have been great for all of our schools, Bethel, Gustavus, and us, to play each other twice.
Yeah. It was a tremendous atmosphere there. Unfortunately, those are one of those, you got to book the guest before the game and you just hope you guess right. But either case, I thought we were going to get the right guest on because the game was building to such a high level capacity. And then you repeated it in the championship game. Granted, the outcome was a little bit different. You guys a little bit more in control, but still a high, must-win type scenario going in. You enter the NCAA tournament, and your first opponent is Superior, and nothing against you guys, but I thought Superior would give you a bit of a game. I think they're a little bit under-heralded, and you basically roll them over. Did you expect that to be a tougher game? Did that one even surprise you guys, or is it maybe just me?
I think Superior did a nice job. I think the level of the play in that first half, and you know how it is, you never know what the moment's going to bring with your athletes, and you try as coaches to prepare your athletes for that moment. And I think in that first half, I think the Superior players were a little overwhelmed, and we were fortunate enough because of that. But if you look at the second half, they came back and they swung, and there's no fight. There's no quitting that team. There's only fight, and so they did a much better job in the second half. And our girls, they've been in this stage, and that's why we play the Hopes and the Bluftons and the Stephen Point. So when we get into this moment, we've been in these big games, and so I think we're a little bit more fortunate to understand what the big games are and how to approach it and how to make it ours.
I almost feel like that's the difference with this squad this year. I almost feel like in the past when the big game has arrived, you guys haven't been as prepared. And that's not a knock necessarily. I just mean because of the amount of MIAC games that you have, sometimes you don't get the schedule you want out of conference, and the conference has not been as good as it has been the last couple of years. So you do feel more prepared this year, and that clearly was evidence when you took on Chicago in the second round. That's a team that is certainly battle-tested this year, gave you a heck of a game, but you guys looked a lot more composed than I've seen in a number of years. It was great.
Correct. I was very proud of our kids. As I said, as a coach, you want your girls just to go out and dare greatly and not get caught up in what this means and, if we lose and feel that pressure. You just want them to embrace the opportunity. And Chicago is a phenomenal defensive team. Mm-hmm. I mean, they do things to you and they try to isolate the ball. And I give their program and their coach so much credit because they came in there and they had their plan and we thought we had countered it. And the thing about it is we had to continue to find different ways to be able to attack and adjust and be successful. And a lot of times as you are coaching your young ladies, you start to see doubt or, maybe sometimes apprehension. And the girls didn't waver. They kept saying, what's next? How do we have to? And it was solution-based. And in the fourth quarter, we found a way to open it up a little bit in a 10-point run, and that kind of gave us that opportunity. But again, it's holding fast to we're going to find a way. We're okay in adversity. We just have to stay together and find a way to make it ours.
This team is outscoring its opponents by more than 21 points a game. You have 3 seniors and 2 juniors, so relatively a young squad, which is probably bad news for the rest of the MIAC. But you're led by those players. Caitlin Longer, the senior, Gabby Zara, the senior, and Lauren Fisher, the junior, pretty much your double points scorers. Caitlin, 19.5 points a game. Gabby's 11.5 points a game and nearly 10 points a game for Lauren Fisher. 8 rebounds, we should point out, for Langer and 5.5 for Fisher. Clearly, this is a team that those 3 certainly help control, but there's a number of players you're playing off the bench. You go deep on your bench this year. How much is this team maybe a little different in terms of depth and in terms of leadership than you've had in the past?
They do a great job of all finding something to contribute. Right now, you talk about the stats and the on-paper thing. We have a point guard, Paige Gurnis, who's just an emotional leader, and she's the one that puts us in the right position and delivers the ball. And defensively, you just don't want to mess with her. She's just one of those people that just are annoying because she's always there,
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody understands that they have gifts to bring, and they've really accepted their roles, and they're really playing well in those roles, and that's why we've been successful.
Marymount ahead. This is, as you pointed out earlier, a little bit of a different team, a different style. Certainly a little bit of an unknown. You were not coaching in '96 when last time St. Thomas and Marymount met in this round. Marymount's coach wasn't even on the team. She might have not even gotten out of high school yet. So this is a little bit of an unknown. As much as you've been in Atlantic, I don't know how much Juniata and McDaniel are going to prepare you for Marymount. So, what have you seen so far? What do you expect from this matchup?
A great team. Obviously, we're moving into our preparation for them, but a lot of times when you're preparing for people, the biggest thing is their personnel, and they've got great players that have great personnel. Their post player has excellent footwork on the low post. But one of the things that is really impressive is how disciplined they are,
Mm-hmm.
and how they play to their system, and how they're constantly in control of the game and the tempo. And they've done a great job. And for them to go into Guilford, and I saw the place was packed.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a welcoming environment, but they were just cool and calm and collected, and they did a great job. So we're going to have our hands full, and we're looking forward to having them come here at St. Thomas.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to talk to us about the upcoming game. Obviously, we talked a little more about the history than normal, but certainly I know the campus is excited. You're at home. You're undefeated. I am kind of curious, though. Are you feeling a little bit of pressure here? The men are out of the tournament. They're the defending champs. Now everybody's kind of focused on you. Or is this more about just enjoying the experience and there is no pressure?
It's about enjoying the experience. I mean, when you set out to begin the season, you talk about being in this position. And so we want to welcome it. And as I said to you before, it's what our perspective is. Our perspective is this is opportunity. This is opportunity that we want. And what we want to do is just invest in and enjoy every minute of it. And so the girls are just focused on what they can control, and that's the process of getting better and improving. And in the game, it's going to be about a narrow focus as well. And we're going to take quarter by quarter. And now with the timeouts, we're going to take round by round by round. You know? And so it's just keeping that focus and controlling what we can control.
Essentially breaking quarters into eighths is how you could look at it and play almost mini games along the way.
That's a lot of times we talk about it's like a boxing match.
Yeah.
It's different rounds that you're going now.
Yeah, very good example. The only difference is you definitely know you got to go the whole length. It's not going to be a knockout.
Correct. There is no knockout.
Yeah, there's no way this is ending early. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, a big weekend on the other side. You've got Whitman and Trinity, though I certainly don't expect you to have much of a scouting report on those two. You got to get past Marymount first. So I appreciate you taking the time and joining us. I know you're busy, so we'll let you go. But always we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who are tuning in?
Well, again, thank you so much for all that you do for Division III women's basketball and men's basketball. There's a book that says "Make the big time where you're at," and it's so true about what you learn from competition, and you do that. You make Division III something special, something to be cherished, and we really do appreciate all the support and all the coverage that you give us, because the young ladies and the young men that represent our programs, all of our programs, they do it for one reason. They love to compete, and they really love the idea of being a part of a team and something special and how we can create that team environment. I mean, there's nothing like it. And so I really do appreciate all you guys do to promote our sport. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Coach. Your words mean a lot to me. I appreciate I love the title of that book. I'm going to go look that one up. But thank you so much. Good luck this weekend. Enjoy it at the very least. And hopefully we're talking about the Tommies next weekend, but I know we're going to be talking about the Tommies next year as well. Good luck.
Thank you. You take care.
Thank you. Ruth Sinn joining us from the St. Thomas number 2 ranked women's basketball program. Again, they got Marymount coming up, Marymount 24-5. On the other side of the bracket, I mentioned it, it's Trinity versus Whitman. Guess what? Coming up, we'll talk to Whitman's basketball coach, McHugh Fren, before they got on the plane to fly out to St. Thomas. That's coming up here on the show. If you've got any questions for us, the information's scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can always email us, tweet us, Facebook Live us, etc. You're watching Hoopsville from the presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. Back with Whitman's point of view when we come back.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
When George Fox University was founded in 1891, its creators envisioned 2 things: a challenging educational experience, and a community where students could deepen their faith. 125 years later, the core of who we are remains unchanged, and our focus on the whole person, our Be Known promise, remains as vibrant and relevant today as it was back then. At George Fox University, you'll never be a number. You will be known.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Ready for an exciting weekend of basketball. Certainly looking forward to it. Again, we've been answering questions when we can throughout the show. You can always email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, tweet us at d3hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Reminder to any of you Hoopsville, or join us on Facebook at
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. It's our sectionals preview as we get ready for an exciting weekend of basketball. Certainly looking forward to it. Again, we've been answering questions when we can throughout the show. You can always email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, tweet us at d3hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Reminder to any of you who are listening to the podcast, emailing us your questions. We'll answer them on Sunday's show if we're on the air, weather permitting. But the next show, certainly, we will get to that and try and do our best. We may even just email you back if that is easier for you as well. So we're still talking about the St. Thomas bracket. Just got done talking to Ruth Sinn. One of the other fascinating matchups in that grouping is Whitman versus Trinity. And certainly 2 very good teams will be playing on a neutral court in that one. Getting a sense of what it might happen, well, let's talk to one of the teams that maybe, all of them are hot, but this one certainly is on a roll as we speak coming in. The Whitman women's basketball team is rolling along, and McHugh Fren joins us from the 16th ranked Blues. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Good to talk to you as always.
I appreciate you taking the time. You should mention their travel and other things like practices and whatnot this is not a live interview. We're pre-taping this to fit this into Coach's schedule. We should mention she hasn't even left the state when we're talking here as we get ready for Hoopsville.
Nope.
It's a magic trick. They'll already be there by the time this airs. But Coach, this is, obviously it's great to be in the NCAA tournament. I know you guys would be at home, but at the same time, you've got a great opportunity to be in the second weekend. I know you want to take full advantage of that.
Oh, definitely. Playing, we're just looking forward to not playing a Northwest Conference school. So it's been a roll.
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah. We'll get right to it. The last 5 games, I think you might know the opponents. George Fox and Puget Sound. If we had known, I don't think you needed to play the other 20 some odd games this season. I think you had this one wrapped up in this 5.
It was. Yeah, between the conference tournament, we ended with Fox,
right,
and then we turned around and played Fox in the first round of the conference tournament, and then UPS, and then turned around and repeated that in the in the first and second round of the NCAA tournament. So, very, very, very familiar with too familiar at times, but obviously very good competition. So top of our conference as always was very good.
I'll have to admit, you played the conference closer against Fox, and the game basically meant who was going to host the game the next week in the conference semis. We knew the two of you were going to be in that semifinal game. It's just a matter of where. And Fox beat you guys 65-62. Close game, certainly. But in my head, I thought, okay, this changes the equation a little bit. George Fox is going to be at home. That could be to their advantage. Granted, you had beaten them earlier in the season there. But it also changes regional rankings, maybe puts some more pressure on you guys. I really wasn't sure what would happen from there. You've won 4 straight since, beating George Fox and Puget Sound twice since that game, gone 4-1 in that turn. Was that game? Did something happen after that game that just kind of fired the cylinders a little bit more on this squad, or is it just happenstance?
I think honestly, we've been a good team all year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not, and I mean, we've the games that we lost to Puget Sound twice in overtime, lost to a underrated Lewis and Clark team on the road where we just, didn't get off to a good start, but a very good team. And, and then lost to Fox at our place in a very close game where I honestly thought, neither team played great offensively, but we really were bad. And I don't know how else to say it, but this has been a process for this group. They've had talent at times, really shown what they could do, but putting it all together has been a challenge. And for some reason, I think just got their backs up against a wall. It was just time to win. And they've been very capable, and really they've been a fun group to coach. Really young, so we had a lot of growing. I mean, we've half our roster's freshmen sophomores or more. Nine of our 14 are freshmen sophomores. So it was a growing up process more than anything. And I think we just finally grew up at the right time because those games, those last 4 games weren't easy. They were close, but we definitely took it to another level. Consistently, which was nice because we'd shown signs of it inconsistently, but really put it together, the last couple weeks. So feeling good. I mean, and those are good teams. I mean, UPS and Fox are good. I mean, those and Clark's good. So we'll feel battle tested, a little battle beat up, but also battle tested. So.
Yeah, we saw Lewis and Clark at the D3Hoops.com Classic in Vegas. I agree with you. Very much an underrated team there. Very good. Squad. And by the way, we should mention of the last 8 games, you've actually played Puget Sound and George Fox 6 times, 3 each. The only 2 oddballs in there are Puget Sound and Lewis and Clark, or Pacific Lutheran, I should say, and Lewis and Clark. Yeah. So you've gotten familiar with these teams. I'm kind of curious though, as this moved on, not only in the conference tournament, but as you got into the first weekend, which you guys are unfortunately a little bit familiar with having to kind of eat your own, as it were, in the conference to get out of the NCAA tournament and move on. Mm-hmm. How do you keep the team, though, focused on the opponent because they've now played them so much, or they just saw them a few nights before or a week before? Do you have to find new ways to remind this team or scout or whatever the case may be so that you don't take a loss, if that makes any sense?
I do. I mean, it does make sense. I mean, it's a balance. I think, we took the approach that there's always any game, any opponent, there's something we can do better. Mm-hmm. And so we took it from that standpoint, like, okay, yeah, we were successful. We felt like UPS went to overtime with twice. Yeah. And so I think our players we just knew we could beat them, and we just needed to put together the whole game, which we just hadn't done to that point. Sure. And so it was like, what do you do? What are the things we have to fix? And I don't know. What's the expression? Familiarity breeds contempt. Maybe that is the. I don't know. Maybe that was us. I mean, maybe it fired us up. But
sure.
For our group of players, just the continuous improvement. We just kept going back to the drawing board. Like, okay, these are things we have to do better, and they kept learning, and they kept growing and kept getting better. And so, the thing is, you kids and Fox were both young and improving too. So, it just kept raising the bar. But it was it's a mental trick, I guess. I don't know what else to say it is, but because you turn around and you just won the conference tournament, played really well, played two tough opponents in hostile environments, and then you turn around and the NCAA says, "Hey, you got to do it again."
Yeah.
And so there was that moment of frustration, and
sure.
But then it was okay. This is the NCAA tournament. You've earned this opportunity. What are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
And that was kind of our approach, and I'm sure that's what Fox and the UPS were saying too. Like, they couldn't have been thrilled to see us again.
No.
And honestly, great respect for. I coached in a great conference with a lot of very good coaches, and I have tons of respect for them. But I was ready to see Mike and Lori over the summer. And I'll be honest, I was really ready to take a break, and I'm sure they were ready to take a break. So, but so I think it was a challenge, but I was proud of how our team responded. The games weren't easy, but we found a way. So that's something to build on.
When let's talk about the end of the game though with Puget Sound, because crazy is a good word. Ridiculous is another. I don't remember how much you led by at one point, but Puget Sound started chipping at you in the fourth quarter, and they kept getting close, and they kept getting close. And you would kind of push them off, and they'd come back again, and you'd push them off, and they'd come back. And at the end, I remember we're doing the whip around show, and one of the guys made it sound like, "Oh, I think this one's over." I said, just wait.
Yeah.
And the end was frenetic. They take a three that was in a different area code that comes well short. You get the ball, they steal the inbound, force up a three, they get a foul, they go to the free throw line. At some point, this is going nuts. There's problems with the clock left and right.
Yep.
From your vantage, and by the way, make the first one, miss a second one, completely blow the third on a purposeful miss. Then they steal the inbound and nearly, throw up a heave that could have gone in. Did your heart stop at any point in this sequence? Because it's one of the crazier finishes I've seen. It felt like you guys were holding on.
I think we were, and when we went back, and obviously in the moment you don't have a chance to evaluate, but after we've gone back and watched, again, a learning experience. We did a lot of things wrong, down the stretch, and we've got some young players, and the things we had consistently done well all game, we quit doing. And we broke down defensively on a couple things that gave them, I remember at one time out, down the stretch, I just looked at them and I said, "Hey, they were going to come back. This is a good team. This is a good battle. How can you expect them not to come back? Given our history over the last, this is our fourth meeting. All these games have been tight and overtime and everything else. So I remember looking at kids, and it kind of calmed them down and got them refocused. But again, a work in progress. And when you go back, we did. They hustled around, they flew around, they gambled.
Yeah.
They made a couple tough shots, but we honestly broke down. We did not handle the situation very well. We ran away from each other. And like I said, we had two huge defensive breakdowns that we had not done the whole game. And, so, and then I think finally, the heave, the last second of the .4, we just wanted to get into the backcourt.
Sure.
We wanted to get as far away from there as possible. We didn't care if they touched it.
No.
It was one of those things where it's like, we just need to get it away from, it was like all these bodies in this one little tight container. We needed to get it as far away from all the bodies as possible. And so, but no, at no point in time did I think we were that game wasn't going to be close.
Sure.
And I think a little bit of that mental fatigue of, here we go again.
Yeah.
We needed to. We need to not be. We just shouldn't have been that way. So again, like I said, I think Mike, Lori, and I were already not each other for a while, and and I think the players get that way too a little bit. We really have to beat up on each other out here.
Yeah.
geographically we're so isolated. I don't know if any. I mean, maybe you know, Dave, because I mean you have the pulse on everything, but I don't know any other conference has to play each other 4 and 5 times like we do.
Not in the modern
away
era.
from each other.
Yeah, I mean, not in the modern era. Maybe the Texas schools, if enough of them get out. But no.
Exactly.
Olden days, yes. Back in the late '90s when we were much more geographically isolated in the bracket. Yes, but not in the modern day. I mean, you guys certainly are in a tough spot. Moving on, though, you've got Trinity. I assume you're a little bit worried with the breakdown at the end of that game and waking this team up. But you've got a number 7 team in Trinity, Texas, with 1 loss in the season. The conference is certainly familiar with Trinity. You guys are not as much. And you're playing it on a neutral court in Minneapolis. How are you guys getting ready for this? What do you expect from this game?
I expect it. I think we actually match up really well. I mean, I don't know how they're feeling about it, but I look at I look at their strengths and their personnel, and I think the teams match up well. But I think it's obviously we went back to the drawing board after the UPS game where we almost blew it, and it's okay. Now what do we need to get better at? Because this is tournament time. Games are going to be tight, and you've got to execute down the stretch. And I think that'll be. I think that'll be the same. I mean, they're 28-1. Yeah. They're, they also played Fox and UPS early. And I can't remember. I think Fox went into overtime, and UPS lost by like 2 or 3. So that's a barometer. Hey, guys, guess what? Trinity's pretty good. This is going to be a tough game. Yeah. And but the nice part is we're in the Sweet 16 and we're excited. We're playing well, and they're playing well, and. So yeah, we're I think a little bit is the pressure's off for not having to see Fox or UPS this weekend. So, but exactly. I mean, it's been it's been exciting just to be in the situation we're in and have this opportunity, and we're going to try and make the most of it. But we know we're going into a very tough pod.
Yeah, they went overtime with George Fox, and they had a 3-point game with Puget Sound.
Yeah. So that gives us a barometer, obviously that this is, we match up well. And, statistically we match up, in terms of what they do well and what we do well. We're kind of mirror images of each other in a lot of respects. So, I think it's going to be a great game. I really do. I think it's going to be a great game with what will be the tipping point. I'm not sure, but I think it'll come down to who can they've got some high-powered offensive players, and so we're going to have to slow them down a little bit. They're a great transition team. They get up and down the floor, and their guard play is really good. So we're going to have to deal with that. And if we can maybe slow them down a little bit, we'll be in business. When
you talk about your team very quickly, before we let you go, Chelsea Brewer, your lone senior? I mean, how many seniors?
I have 2 seniors.
2 seniors, I forgot about Kettner.
2 seniors. Yeah, Elise Kettner and Chelsea Brewer, who were freshmen on that team that went to the Final Four.
Yep.
And Chelsea and Elise are, big part of why we're having a good year.
Yeah.
Good. Just Chelsea's, been our leading scorer pretty consistently all season, but we're not a team that has a 20 like Trinity. We have 2 or 3 players, in double figures, and so we're not, we don't have that one person averaging 20. Chelsea I think is about 13 or 14, and right in that range. But then we have Casey right there and Emily right there, and Elise not far behind. So our balance is our strength, and
sure.
I think that's the same with Trinity, but no, Elise has really stepped up. Defensively, she's been great. Rebounding wise, Elise just does a little bit of everything.
Sure.
Handles the ball, so kind of allows Chelsea to run around and be the shooter.
Nice.
Chelsea's become this year, I think, one of our reasons for improvement. She's really become a much better defender. She's just done a nice job. She's long and she's quick, and it's kind of they think it's funny because with those 2, they're kind of they're similar in the position they play, but I couldn't tell you they're just such different people and players, and they're very complementary to each other. Elise is my outgoing captain, and Chelsea's my quiet one, and just their personalities has really been an interesting fit for 4 years, but it's really worked out nicely this year because they really complement each other. And with such a young team, they've just been a kind of the leadership, leading the way, playing with a lot of heart and a lot of energy and toughness. And I think our youngins have kind of benefited from that. They've seen how they have to play, and that's been a big part of us getting where we are.
You guys have not traveled much this year in the sense of outside of your area. You had one trip to Honolulu. Yep. I feel horrible for you for that. I know that was difficult right before
I had to get
Christmas.
out of the winter somewhere.
Yeah, I know. And you know, to Honolulu, which again, you know, for those who haven't listened to Hoopsville earlier when we talked about this trip from the Northwest, that's not that big a trip. From us East Coasters, that's a long trip. But for you guys, it's kind of a hop, skip, and a jump. But this is your biggest trip since. You're also going east instead of west. You're traveling in the day before. How do you hope the team responds? What are you trying to adjust so the team can respond?
Well, we tried not to change our routine too much. You know, we were kind of a day before travel team.
Okay.
You know, so we decided to practice here, and then we'll get on the court at St. Thomas, obviously, when we get there. But you know, we decided to try and just stay here and practice today, and it also. Like probably every other school you've talked to, we're in the middle of midterm, and so you know we just felt like our players we haven't been on big trips. We have been on the road. We were home one weekend in February, and so we've been gone. I mean, almost every Friday for 4 or 5 weeks. So our kids were kind of feeling the pressure academically, and so I think. Just staying one extra day and practicing, and then, hey, we'll get up early, we'll get there, and we'll get on the court and do what we need to do. And they're excited. So, you know, you hope that kind of takes care of a lot of the travel worries. But, yeah, it was, you know, we did it. I know the other teams are traveling today, and we're going to get there a little bit earlier. But, you know, we felt like we were doing the best thing for us. And so, you know, hopefully that'll work. Plus, it's earlier in the day, so we won't be nearly as tired. So
fair point.
We'll feel like it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's fair point.
You know, we'll lose those hours, but I guess you know, be in a different time frame. But we tried to keep the routine as normal as possible. So
yeah, you've had 3 home games since January 14th. Not that anybody's counting or anything. No. But yeah. So fascinating turn of events to be sure. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking time to join us.
Thank you.
I know, again, we're talking to Coach well in advance of our show, so she's still got to go packing and then get on an airplane. But I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck this weekend. But as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who might be tuning in?
No, I just think it's going to be. We're really excited. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a great game with Trinity, and we're excited to get there. So and I just appreciate your coverage. We've been following you a lot, and you know, appreciate you sticking up for the Northwest Conference on Selection Day too.
You know,
that.
We can do what we can.
I know you. I know you do what you can, and I know you have seen the quality of our conference and appreciate us. So that helps. That helps a lot, so we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, good luck. Glad you got out of the weekend, and have fun at least, and we'll look forward to talking about the Blues down the road.
Thank you. Take care, Dave.
Take care. Michelle Fren's joining us from Whitman. Again, the team is 25-4 overall. They finished tied for second in the conference, but they have made quick work of the rest of their conference, though it was a grind. Again, 6 of the last 8 games were against Puget Sound or George Fox, 3 each. And in that stretch, if you are curious, they lost once to Puget Sound, they lost once to George Fox, but they've won 4 straight. They at least get to play a different opponent in Trinity coming up. When we come back, we'll switch back to some men's basketball. We'll talk about Williams, talk about another team that's on the roll. Their head coach joins us. Can the Eves get back to Salem? Well, they got a tough task ahead of them. We'll talk to their head coach about it. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville when we get back.
Cheer for the stumbles, the he shoulda had that's, and the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
Defining moments. Championship dreams. Share the experience with your family and friends. The 2017 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 17th and 18th at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia. Visit ncaa.com/tickets for your tickets today.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this jam-packed sectionals preview show on this Thursday evening. Reminder, if you've got questions, tweet us or email us or do whatever you need to do to get a hold of us. You can tweet us at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, whatnot. Try and answer some questions at the end, though the end will be a little bit tighter than we normally are spend, as we're going to be running a little bit late on the show and have to get going to get packed up and head out the door the next tomorrow morning, Friday morning for Marietta. But we'll do our best to answer your questions if you have any. Don't forget, we'll be hopefully on the air Sunday, weather permitting, on our way back from Marietta. Hopefully we'll be on the air Sunday. If not, look for us to be on air Monday. But we talked about the beginning. We'll talk about that at the end as well. Switching gears now, talking women's basketball. Now we'll talk some men's basketball. One of the teams that basically played themselves into the NCAA tournament, and basically became, I guess not really the fifth and the NESCAC team. Amherst really became that, but Williams made it possible to get 5 teams in thanks to the way they finished the season, including a win over Amherst in the quarterfinals of the NESCAC tournament, beating Tufts in the semis before losing to Middlebury in the championship game. They've certainly made the decision by the committee, a good one, after beating Becker in the first round 91-63, and then beating Scranton rather effortlessly 80-53. Their reward, another Mid-Atlantic team in Susquehanna, a top 25 ranked team, up next. What does it all mean? Where's this program come in a couple of years since we've seen them in the championship game with a new coach and a new team, basically? Well, joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline is Kevin App, the head coach of the Williams-Eves men's team. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time. So the curiosity I've got is, where did you guys come from? I mean, you had a great start to the season, but about midway through, I think a lot of people thought, man, this just isn't going to pan out, especially when you finished 5-5 in the conference. But it seems the 6 seeds love to make runs in the tournament, and Williams certainly was one of those.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we had a really strong start to the season. I've liked this group ever since we got started, and really, I think when you look at it now, we had a couple of rough weeks there in the middle of the season, as this group, kind of tried to find themselves, tried to find what it meant to play with some expectations behind them, to win tough games on the road and all that. We still have majority of our team's underclassmen, so we kind of went through a couple week learning experience, and fortunately we have some pretty strong leadership on our team. And they were able to right the ship, and we've been playing some great basketball, I think, the last 5 weeks of the season. So yeah, I mean, I asked the guys at the beginning of the season to kind of treat it as a long journey, a long race, and not to really look up until we cross the finish line. And fortunately for us, we're not there yet. So we haven't even remotely looked up to see kind of how far we've come, but we're excited where we're at right now.
Yeah, 2 seniors, 4 juniors, and 10 sophomores and freshmen combined. It certainly is a younger squad. Again, it's 11-1 start on the season. I think Wesleyan might have been the only game in that 12 that we all kind of looked at and maybe had given us a clue of what things would be to come in the conference tournament. Yeah, you had some decent teams in there, the Springfields. I mean, the win over Hope certainly turned some heads. I think a lot of people had high expectations, and then you unfortunately had that rough spot in the middle. You lost 5 of 7 games. Amherst, Trinity, Bowdoin, Hamilton, and Amherst a second time. Did you guys have to have kind of a moment together? Did you have to wake this team up a little bit, or is it more about just riding it out? Because after that stretch, you've only lost 2 since.
Yeah, unfortunately, Hamilton gave us the wake-up moment by, really coming at us in the first half at their place.
Yeah, that was unreal.
Yeah, so they, I thought that second half of that game was kind of where, I left there fairly encouraged as you can, as much as you can be at 1-4. But, I thought our team in the second half, showed some fight, showed some heart, and got back to just playing basketball at a competitive level. I think, looking back on it, we started to worry too much about winning and losing, and, started kind of, worrying about the outcome before the game even started. And, once we kind of figured that out and realized, hey, we just go out and play hard, have some fun together. We're a pretty good basketball team. I think we've shown that. And the guys, obviously beat Middlebury, kind of validated that a little bit. That game coming out of Hamilton, and then sweeping that next weekend of Wesleyan and Conn. And since then, we've been able to kind of keep it rolling.
When you look at, the weird thing is, Hamilton gets you on the nose there, 94-76. Then you get Middlebury, one of their rare losses in the second half of the season, 89-65, and then Amherst returns a favor and beats you by 8. A lot of up and down there in a span of basically 5 days.
Yeah, I think in a league like ours where it's, so balanced and competitive, 1 through, I think 9 this year had big wins. Bowdoin even beat us and was 1 shot away from beating Amherst as well. So I think what you see, I know a lot's made of us only playing each other once, but only playing each other once, certain teams get to play at home against certain teams. And all that I think factors in. I think, when you play and where you play, I think it has shown itself to be a big part of, kind of what happens in our league sometimes. So during that stretch, a lot of those games were on the road, and we were the standalone team this year for the second time, playing Friday and Sunday. So, we're playing 2 games when everybody we're playing is only playing 1 that weekend. So it took us a little while, this season in particular. I think the guys, expected to be good, wanted to be good. So it took us a little while to handle that mental and emotional part of letting Friday go, no matter, whether it was a win or loss. And getting ready for Sunday. I think those first couple of league weekends, we sat around all day Saturday, coaches and players, basically putting pressure on ourselves to not drop another one on Sunday or not let it happen on Sunday, instead of just, kind of relaxing a little bit and, competing Sunday and seeing what happens. And that's where I've been proud of the guys. Really since that Middlebury game, we've just got to, I think we've competed in just about every game. We've had some blips, some bad halves here and there, but, we're just out there competing, and good stuff happens when you do that.
You got a chance to host mainly because Scranton could not, their women being at home. Interesting enough, you got Becker in the first round and a little bit of a quirk in the scheduling. You beat them 91-63, and then you had your way with Scranton 80-53. I think a lot of people expected that game to be a little bit better the way Scranton was playing coming in, and certainly just the competitiveness that the matchup presented. But that game got out of hand quick, and you guys ended up with a far easier game, and I don't mean that in the true sense of the word easier, but score-wise, than we expected. How did that first weekend go for you guys, and do you feel you were tested enough to prepare you for the second weekend?
Yeah, I think that's half the reason we played so well this past week. For the guys at this point feel that they've been in a lot of different situations, played against a lot of great teams, good perimeter teams, good interior teams. So I think we saw that confidence rise up where they feel at this point, we're kind of prepared for anything. And, we played, Becker was more perimeter oriented, had some guards that can really score the basketball. And I thought our length and versatility defensively, guarding that aspect of opponents showed itself Friday. And then Saturday, they Scranton throws the ball inside a lot, and I thought our post guys, did a phenomenal job on the defensive end. And, our offense has been, growing in confidence, especially as our defense has picked up.
Interestingly, you'll take on 17th ranked Susquehanna coming up here on Friday, and you'll be playing it at Middlebury, a gym you guys are somewhat familiar with. Interesting enough, a lot of people pointing to the fact that Scranton beat Susquehanna twice this season in conference. And so a lot of people thinking, the Williams, probably going to repeat Saturday night. They may forget that Susquehanna beat Trinity and Trinity beat you earlier this year. You really can't kind of rely on that stuff. How are you guys preparing for this game? And do you have to keep that mindset? Who cares who Scranton beat? This is basically a new team.
Yeah, as coaches and players, we don't tend to think that way. We've seen it, firsthand in our league that it didn't really matter who had beaten who. Everybody can kind of compete, especially at this time of the season when you only got 16 teams left.
Yeah.
They're not there because they're not talented. They can't win basketball games. So, we're just kind of treating it like any other game, any other week, and know that we got to play at a certain level, to be successful this time of year.
This program's come a long way since we last saw it this far in the tournament. Obviously, that was when Maker was still coached. Duncan Robinson was a freshman. This would have been his senior year, I believe. They made it all the way to the championship game, knocked on the doorstep of picking up the walnut and bronze. Maker leaves, Robinson transfers. You come in basically with a bare shelf. You've got a couple players like Wall who were still around, but basically this team is nothing like the team we saw a few years ago. You're led by a senior in Daniel Aronowitz, 17.5 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, 2 assists a game. A sophomore in Kyle Skadlock, 12.5 points a game, 6.5 rebounds a game as well. And then we should point out Cole Teal, the junior, 10 points a game, and Bobby Cassie, the junior, 8.5 points a game. But, this team truly is new. You basically rebuilt, and I don't want to say rebuilt, that's not the best way of saying it, but retooled the program once you took over. How far has this program come in the few years that you've been at the helm?
We're proud of, like you said, I don't know if, in our program we ever really have to, hopefully rebuild or anything. It's just, we had, some things you can't control, a transfer here. We graduated a big senior class after that national championship game. And then last year we dealt with some injuries. Chris Galvin was out half the year, and Mike Greenman missed the entire year. So that took some of our kind of veteran presence away from the team last year. And, so each year kind of presents different challenges. But, because of the, Coach Makers, Coach Boston's, Coach Sheehy's, and, all those great teams, kind of our history, our culture is able to attract, I think, some high caliber student athletes, and we're able to get some of them into the program, and it's, a lot of them got some experience, the last couple of years as underclassmen, which isn't always the case here, and they're continuing to grow and learn, which is exciting. But I think getting so many of them some opportunities as freshmen and sophomores, and bring in Mike Greenman back this year with some veteran experience and leadership. It's really kind of helped the team kind of come together later in the year.
You got a chance. You have an interesting travel to this point of being the head coach of Williams. First and foremost, you were at Cornell, played one season. Am I correct?
At Cornell?
Yeah, yeah.
So I played at Cornell my entire time there. Graduated in 2007.
Okay.
And then I used my engineering degree for a year.
Yeah,
and
that's the crazy part. You went off into the real world and went into engineering. Talk about polar opposite of basketball.
Yeah, it's amazing what Washington, D.C. traffic will do. It'll convince you to get into coaching.
Yes, I'm familiar with that traffic. Even the Baltimore traffic will get you into something, anything that can keep you anywhere from it. Yes.
Exactly.
But then you got into coaching, and you went up to Williams. That's where you started your coaching tenure.
It is. It's Coach Maker gave me a tremendous opportunity. And it's a great program to start in. I think a great level to start in, where you get to really dive in and get to experience every aspect of running a program. And then I met my wife here, so when the opportunity presented itself to come back, we were pretty thrilled to jump on it.
I should point out that you then parlayed that into going back to Cornell and being an assistant coach, moved on to being an assistant coach at Army. I think we've known a few good coaches who've been assistant in Army, both at the Division III and Division I levels, and then you took over for Maker once he left for Marist. And as you said, you met your wife up there, et cetera. It seems like Williams and Williamstown in the northwest corner of Massachusetts is definitely home. It's certainly polar opposite of the Silver Spring, Washington, D.C. Metroplex.
Yeah, I get to walk to work now instead of sitting in the traffic. It's even better.
How much of the D1 experience, though, are you able to use? And I should point out, you did play at Cornell more than 1 year. I don't know why I got that 1 year in my head, but how much can you
parlay? I looked at my stats and thought it was probably only 1 year.
That's probably where it is, yeah. How do you be able to parlay that experience, or do you have to come from it from a different point of view completely? Yes, Cornell is very similar to Williams in the sense of an academic institution. NESCAC would be arguably, along with the UAA, the Ivy League version of Division III. But can you parlay that experience, or are you coming from a different point of view?
No, I think you definitely, I think the student athletes, between the NESCAC, the Patriot League, and the Ivy League aren't too different. They're all, driven young men. So it's, I think learning how to, from Cornell and West Point, just, recruiting nationally to an academic school, you learn that aspect. And, I think you learn kind of what motivates, kind of the academic-minded athletes, to perform not only on the court but off of it. And so we get less time here. My experience here as the assistant, I knew that coming in. So that's really the only difference. You get less time actually on the court. But you make up for that by building, more time, I think, on campus. Since you're not doing as much off-campus recruiting, so you get to, kind of make up for the time you miss on the court by I think developing some pretty strong relationships off the court, since we're really here on campus the majority of the time with the student athletes.
Well, it's certainly a fascinating road that you have taken. Could talk to you for 30 more minutes about it, but we don't have that kind of time, and I know you are preparing for Susquehanna, so we'll let you go. But as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, I mean, obviously, Dave, we appreciate the shows and just the fan base you're able to kind of bring with for Division III basketball. And as a coach, I think all the coaches this time of year, we're just excited to get another week with our team, another chance to watch them compete, and that's really all I'm looking forward to. Tomorrow is watching this group, get one more opportunity to compete, and hopefully, continue it from there.
Very good. Well, congratulations on the run so far. Look forward to seeing what happens this weekend, and we wish you luck.
Sounds great.
Kevin Knapp joining us from Williams on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline. Side note, if just in the small world life of things, Kevin went to high school with my brother-in-law. Very small world, but not that uncommon in the Baltimore, D.C. area. It seems like everybody's related to everybody. It's very small-to-more in this area, but nonetheless, another small world. We talked to Ashley Rogers of Marymount on Sunday. I found out after the fact, good friend of mine and my neighbor. Went to high school with her. It's a little bit weird, to be honest, but we wish Williams all the luck in the world. Great to talk with Kevin Knapp. Finally, to be honest, first time we've talked to him on the show since he took over the Williams program. When we come back, we'll talk to a man we've talked to quite a bit, and one that I would say many didn't expect to be at this point in the tournament, if in the tournament at all. You lose 8 seniors, and you're back in the same spot they were in last year. Augustana Giovanni's joined me on the show to talk about his Vikings and how far they have come. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. Back with more after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
At George Fox University, our promise is that every student will be known, personally, academically, and spiritually. To be known means professors and staff know you by name. It means you're valued, encouraged, and challenged. It means we'll listen to you and with you as you pursue God's call in your life. At George Fox University, you will never be a number. You will be known. Visit georgefox.edu to learn more.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you are enjoying the show. We bit more off than we could chew. We're a little bit in overtime here. We got one more coaches segment, then we'll have a quick wrap up, and then we'll be done. So last chance to get questions into us. I will give you an idea of how I think things will turn out at the end, though I will not say who I think is going to be winning, since I'll be calling at least one of the brackets. And I'll be calling the analyst for the championship weekend in Salem for the men's basketball. But we'll give you a sense of where I think things will head. Also, a reminder of Sunday's program, and we'll quickly recap the fundraiser. On that note, final guest. So Augustana last year, odds-on favorite. We all thought they'd be playing for a national championship, considering they brought back everybody from a team that finished runner-up. Figured, yeah, absolutely, this will happen. They lost 8 seniors. They lost 6 top scorers. We figured, you know what, they'll retool this year. They'll rebuild. They'll certainly compete in the CCIW, but shouldn't expect much from them. Apparently, the Vikings didn't get that memo. They came roaring back this season. They are 21-8. Sure, a few more losses than we're used to, especially after last year's 29-2 season. 11-5 in the conference, and they're in the Sweet 16. Yeah, definitely didn't get the memo. Great Giovanine joins us on the City of Salem. This. And Coach, first and foremost, welcome back to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. And did you guys get the memo?
Well, thanks, Dave. We're sure excited to be playing the second weekend, and I think I'd be less than honest if I said I saw this coming. We thought we had some awfully good young players. We knew we'd had a terrific recruiting class, but it's been a remarkable year, and we're thrilled to be in the Sweet 16 again.
Yeah, well, at least you're honest about it. I appreciate that. If you had said, sure, I thought I was going to be there, I probably would have checked on you. Again, this is a team that, got to the Salem Civic Center 2 years ago, lost at Stevens Point in the championship game, and probably, by the way, nothing against you guys, one of the best defensive games I've ever seen from a team. Then last year you get into the NCAA tournament, get to the Elite Eight, and per normal it feels, you ran into St. Thomas in the Elite Eight and lost to them as they went on to win a national championship. And again, I thought everybody thought we would just see a retooled team. You certainly would compete in the CCIW. No one expected it at the bottom, etc. At what point this season did you realize, no, this is a different script. This is a different plan. We've got a chance here.
Well, we struggled early in the year. I think there was one point we went through a 6-game period where we were 3-3.
Yep.
And then we really hit our stride. We got, some guys in the right places. We had been playing Chris Orange at the point, moved him to the 2. Nolan Ebel, another sophomore, kind of emerged. And, we had just moved the pieces around a little bit and then really hit our stride. We won 10 of our next 11, and we were really running away from the pack in the CCIW. We were 8-1.
Yeah.
And then we lost another key player at that point. And struggled down the stretch, went 3-4, and really had to kind of reinvent ourselves again. And so we've moved some pieces around. Some guys have emerged again, and here we are really playing some great basketball the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When Pearson Warford, was for lack of a better term, Coach, removed from the team. There's no way to tap dance around that. When he left, my thinking was, okay, they've had a guy who's been scoring double figures, 12 points a game, 5.5 rebounds. They certainly have some other tools, but that one's going to hurt a little bit. That's going to sting. It almost felt like you were able to find other players and fill the role and maybe even found a better unit. And that's not a shot at Warford in any way. I just mean the retooling put guys in different spots, and it looked like it re-energized the team.
Well, yeah, he was, made so many clutch plays for us too in key points, and in losing him, we really did have to move a lot of pieces again. Brett Benning went from playing a 3 to playing a 4. We moved another guy into the rotation in Brandon Shatner, the two big freshmen. We really kind of leaned on them a little bit more defensively in some areas. And it took some time. Like I said, we didn't play great there down the stretch, but really have found our stride once again and are playing awfully well at this point.
And it's with underclassmen. I mean, that's the thing. Is the last 2 years it was juniors and then the rising guys becoming seniors, and it was this upperclassmen group who'd been together, solid unit. Yeah. You know what? They're going to do well. It just didn't work out. This is underclassmen. I mean, Orange is a sophomore. Sortillo is a junior, and both in double figures, and Orange leading the way. You also have Jacob Johnson, who I think is an underclassman. I forgot.
Well, actually, Jacob is
he's
our
a
one
senior. Right, he's your one senior
in the mix. But we got 3 sophomores and 3 freshmen that are playing really key roles, and of course, Wolford was just a sophomore as well. So 7 of our top 8 or 9 were freshmen and sophomores, and so they went through took some lumps early, and we played a great Wash U team. Had a tough loss on the road at Wisconsin lacrosse. Got beat in the first game of the conference season by North Park, and then, like I said, won 8 straight, and looked like we were going to run away with the thing. But here we are, and and I think everybody in the course of a season, you have guys get hurt or sick or what. There's always some bumps along the way, but these guys have really been resilient, and to go up and play the defending national champion and beat them, and then to play Whitewater on their home court and win that game. And we did play very well in our conference tournament. We beat North Park to get into the championship game. So, this group's, they're playing very well. And everybody keeps telling them how young. I'm the only guy who keeps saying, you're not young anymore. Now, you're not young anymore. You're veteran, experienced guys. And yet, I know in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, they're veteran, experienced guys. They're all going to be back for 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, don't. But hey, we've already learned this lesson. You can't write into anything. We can't assume a darn thing. Quickly before we get to what happened last weekend, the CCIW was a little quirky this year. We're used to this conference having a couple teams at the top. You've been there. Elmhurst was there last year. Illinois Western's been, where it's just, you got this group and then there's everybody else. And certainly it's a competitive conference and it's a good conference, but you have some real dominating teams at the top. It felt quirky is the best way I can do it. We had a 3-way tie between you guys, Carthage and North Park at 11-5. North Central and Illinois Wesleyan were 9-7. Illinois Wesleyan missing out on the tournament. Now, granted, 2 more teams at 8-8, and then it's a steep drop-off to Elmhurst and Milliken. What was it about the season this year? Is this just a retooling year in this conference? And with your youth and some of these other teams, we're going to see it come back? Or with North Park losing a couple key players, Illinois Wesleyan losing a couple key players, might we just be kind of seeing a changing of things in the CCIW?
Well, I'd say 2 things, Dave. I think we really were head and shoulders the best team in the league 9 games in. We're 8-1, and I think we're 2 or 3 games ahead. And then we came back to the pack when we had the loss of a key player. But I really think what you saw in the league was a very young conference. So many of the key players were inexperienced. And, of course, North Park had a real key injury in losing the Reardon, who's a terrific player early in the year. But, Wheaton had a very good group of underclassmen. We're very young. I think Carthage had some good young kids. They had a big freshman that was the freshman of the year in the conference. I really think it was a young conference.
Interesting.
And I think that's why there was kind of nobody that could separate it there at the end.
You said North Park. I know you meant North Central with Raritan, but North Park also had to deal with its injuries. Its two top players were kind of on the bench at a couple of different occasions during the season. Illinois Wesleyan had to deal with injuries with their top player.
Right.
Yeah, it was an interesting year to say the least, but it certainly proves that next year or the year after are going to be really amazing to watch CCIW.
I think you're right. I think the conference will be very, very good the next couple of years.
Oh, absolutely agree with you. Kind of like what the WIAC did last year, where it kind of fell off a little bit, but it kind of came back to what we're used to this year. Let's talk about last weekend. You go up to Whitewater to play, and of course you get matched up with St. Thomas, your old nemesis, in the first round. As I've joked, you've seen them usually at the Elite Eight and usually at your place. You two had been in the conversation the last couple of years per national championship hopes. And of course they had dashed yours. Interestingly enough, you get a huge win there. You are down 8 with 40 seconds left to go in this thing. I certainly didn't think it was over, but that's a lot of points to make up. You end up winning by 3, so it's an 11-point swing. There's no way you had a play drawn up for this.
Well, it actually was 36 seconds. We're down 8.
Just to make it worse.
Yeah, and they had the ball, but an 11-point run, and you really have to slow down to replay it to appreciate it. But, some remarkable efforts, I think, on our part and a couple lucky bounces. And, 10 seconds to go, it's a tie game, and they've got the ball. They go the length of floor and charge.
Yeah.
All right, now all of a sudden we've got it with 3.7 seconds in a tie game, and Krishan Orange, takes 4 bounces in less than 3.7 seconds, pulls up on balance and nails one at the buzzer. But Nolan Ebel made a couple big baskets, but it's one of those deals where we missed a free throw and got the rebound and put it back in. Some things like that drive coaches crazy. And the only thing I can compare it to, last year, Northern Iowa was up 12 against Texas A&M with about a minute to go and can't close it out. But it was as remarkable a finish as I've probably ever been a part of in, 35 plus years of coaching.
Well, and then you double down. The next night, you're taking on Whitewater at their place, of course. Not necessarily a huge come-from-behind victory, but it comes down to the end yet again. And we'll talk about Krishan Orange's shot in a minute because I gotta relay it from my point of view. But that is a huge win on the opponent's court. It takes another last-second shot. I mean, it's almost like we had 2 dreamlike movies back-to-back.
Well, you're right. And the second one, I really thought we were going to win it going away. We were up 8 with about a minute and a half to go.
True. And
then we turned the ball over in a couple critical junctures. I thought we were going to shoot free throws and win by 10 or 12, but we coughed it up a couple times. And, they're athletic. The crowd's going crazy.
Yeah.
When you're on the opposing team's home court, you got to be 8 or 10 points better. And we just hung on. It's a tie game. And, of course, then, the final shot makes the difference again.
We've talked about your excitement on a sideline, your jacket and whatnot. I found it interesting in the first game. It was the polar opposites. It's John Tower, who's rather poised and rather cerebral, is really what I want to get at, versus you. And then in the second game, it was the exact same 2 guys, Pat Miller and you. I almost wish the production had just put 2 ISOs on both of you guys, put the cameras in the lower corner so we could have watched the entire thing from your point of view. Talk about dynamics, though. But you know these coaches well. You all have been through your battles. As much as it was tough, you had to appreciate it from both points of view.
Absolutely. First of all, I'm not offended that you would say that John is smarter than I am. I don't think there's any doubt.
I just said cerebral, but
but just a fine person and an outstanding coach, and I would say the same of Pat. And as you said, Pat and I kind of wear our emotions on our sleeves.
Yeah.
It's just the way we're wired. John, much different demeanor, a lot of different ways to approach things, but 2 terrific programs and outstanding coaches. And I got to tell you, I got a wonderful email today, in fact, from John from St. Thomas, wishing us well. And gee, what a class gesture on his part. And we get up there and beat Pat on his home court against Whitewater, and just a real gentleman after the game. And I think you've been through enough of these wars over the years, and you really appreciate the guy on the other side of that score table for sure.
All right, so the final shot. We were showing it on the Whip Around show, and the one thing that we all reacted to, though luckily nobody could hear us, we had turned our mics off so that the broadcasters could be heard. Orange goes and just basically steals the ball from his teammate. I mean, there is no other way to describe that. The ball's 40 feet from the basket. He goes up, rips it out of his hand, has his back turned, and goes, "I'm taking care of this," and then proceeded to take care of this. Is that how you drew it up?
Well, I appreciated he asked me if he could do it, and I said, "Sure, go get it." We're all on the same page except our point guard. I don't think
he was on the same page.
But Chris just said, "Hey, coach, let me run it." We knew what play we were going to run. He said, "Let me run it," and I said, "Sure, go get it." And we didn't want to take a timeout, didn't want to let the defense set or make a change. We knew what we wanted to run. But you're right, Chris really asserted himself, and he did the same thing. And normally the night before we wouldn't have run that with him in the backcourt, but he said, "Hey, I can get there." And so, boy, when you as a coach, when you have a guy that really asserts himself and shows that kind of confidence, you got to go with him, and obviously that's how it worked.
Amazingly, and as a result, you end up defeating the last two champions, Whitewater and St. Thomas, in the first two rounds. Your reward is the wild card of this tournament, Wartburg. 6th seed in the IIAC, go on to win the conference championship, and then go knock off Benedictine and River Falls, two pretty good teams.
Dave, they didn't knock them off; they blew them out.
Well,
they won
they destroyed them.
50 points.
They destroyed them.
Amazing.
Yeah,
it's 41-17 at the half, and everybody that I had talked to said that River Falls was the best team in our sectional.
Yeah.
So Wartburg clearly is the hottest team in the tournament right now, and are going to really be a handful for us.
So how are you preparing? What do you see in this squad, who again was a 6th seed in the conference? How are you guys approaching this game? And I realize you're not going to give me an entire scouting report. I'm not crazy enough to expect that. But just from a layman's point of view, what do you see and what do you guys expect? What do you think you can handle?
Well, they're terrific. They play 4 really skilled guys. So they get 4 guys on the floor that can make threes and can put it on the floor and go by you. The two things they do best are they make threes and they draw fouls. They shot 140 more free throws than their opponents. So you got to keep them from getting rhythm threes, and then you have to keep them off the free throw line. And those are, to me, the real two keys defensively. And then, from the offensive perspective, they've really changed up their defense. They play a real tight pack man-to-man, and they've also shown some matchup zone that's really given people fits. I will say this. I'm so thankful that we've had a week to prepare because they are unique.
Yeah, they are.
And I think that uniqueness seems to have really given people fits. And, the conference people, it's interesting. When you play in a conference, you know your opponent, you're familiar with their system and so on. These guys have gotten in the NCAA tournament, and people have been stymied by the style that they've played. So, as I said, I think the week of preparation at least gives us a fighting chance.
I know it's on the other side of it, so not necessarily an easy one to talk about, but Hope Hanover is sitting on the other side. Of course, this is at Hope, which is another one of those fabled places in Division III basketball. Anything you see on the other side of that matchup, should you get past Wartburg?
Well, we played Hope last year, I think in the 2nd or 3rd round, and they've got a number of those guys back, and from what everybody, each of my assistants has one of those teams, and they're telling me that Hope is just looks like an Indiana team. They said very, very skilled, fundamentally sound, very well coached, and I think they're 26-3 or something. So I'm sure that would be a great matchup, and if we're fortunate enough to get by this first one, I hope they go triple overtime in the second game.
I don't understand why you would think that.
I
can understand why you would want that too. In all honesty, is this a team, ironically, that could get back to Salem this year? Are you confident, especially the wide open pod? But is this a team that legitimately has a chance to be in Salem next weekend?
Oh, I think it is. I think, there are 16 teams that probably feel that way, but we're certainly one of them. We come in there, and I said last weekend, I don't know that anybody, had two better wins. But then I turn around and look at Wartburg and go, hey, they beat Benedictine and River Falls.
Yeah, I saw that in the press conference. I knew we couldn't interrupt you.
Yeah. So, hey, hang on a second there,
Coach. Whoa, rein it in.
But I really like our team right now. I like where we are mentally. I think we're very confident. We've had a week to prepare, and you get to this point, and you get a couple bounces, and you do the things you do well, and you can advance. So yeah, absolutely. I think this is a team that could win a couple more games.
Well, it's great to see you guys in the tournament on a year that I freely admit didn't expect to see you guys in the postseason. But it's been amazing to watch you guys along the way. Good luck this weekend against the quirky Wartburg, and good luck if you get past them against Hope or Hanover. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
The March Madness, I think, is much fun, as exciting at the NCAA Division III level as any level out there. And anybody that's watching these games is certainly getting their money's worth. And again, appreciate all you do to promote Division III basketball, Dave.
Well, thank you, Coach. You are exactly right. It is very thrilling, and it's been a very fun season this year as well. Well, good luck this weekend, and we look forward to talking to you down the road. I have a feeling we better just reserve some spots for the next 2 years. I think we're going to be talking to you in the CCIW quite a bit.
Hope so.
All right, take care, Coach. Great, Giovanine joining us here on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. Wide open pod down there. What are my thoughts on that pod? We'll find out when we come back. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we wrap up the show. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville after this.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
At George Fox University, our promise is that every student will be known, personally, academically, and spiritually. To be known means professors and staff know you by name. It means you're valued, encouraged, and challenged. It means we'll listen to you and with you as you pursue God's call in your life. At George Fox University, you will never be a number. You will be known. Visit georgefox.edu to learn more.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed what was a jam-packed show. We are well past when I thought we'd be on the air, so we won't be spending a lot of time in this final block. I still have to finish my packing and get ready to hit the road early tomorrow to Marietta. There is weather in the forecast tomorrow, so I want to get out kind of and deal with it. I'm not going to be able to get out ahead of it. And there is going to be weather on Sunday potentially in this region. We have had a pathetic winter, to say the least, in the Mid-Atlantic region. As I said at the beginning of the show, though some of you may not have heard it, thanks to the podcast not starting on time, we had less than an inch of snow here this winter. Last year we had 40 in one storm. Anyway, Sunday does look a little bit interesting. I'm not sure. It may have a lot to do with tomorrow's storm. So Sunday we hope to be on the air at 7 o'clock. If we are not, it's because of the weather, and we will push it back to either Monday afternoon or Monday night, which cramps our style a little bit because we got to get ready for the Salem trip, but that's what we will do nonetheless. Again, I'm not going to give you who I think wins, at least on the men's side, but maybe on the women's side I will, because I am calling the games at Marietta, and I don't want anybody thinking that I'm going in with a predisposed notion of what's going to happen. And I am calling the Final Four in Salem as the analyst for the NCAA.com. And again, don't want to have any predisposed notions. So with that in mind, I did get at least one question so far on what my thoughts are with certain matchups. So let's start on the men's side and talk about that just a little bit. Forgive me as I'm trying to open up my men's bracket, which I had thought I had done. It's never as easy as you think it is. So on the men's side, we'll start in the upper left. That's the one I'm going to, Marietta. Whitman versus Hardin-Simmons, Marietta versus Rochester. Honestly, and I think Coach Carse said this well, this is a Final Four type bracket. Now, could we have had this as a Final Four? Probably not. But four very different teams, four very good teams. Whitman coming in undefeated. I'll be blunt. They're going to have a battle here with Hardin-Simmons. Going through the numbers, Hardin-Simmons is a darn good basketball team. Won 18 of the last 20. You can say what you want about the ASC, but Laterno was good this year. Mary Hardin-Baylor is always a well-coached team. And you have others down there, and I know I'm forgetting one, Texas Dallas, for example, that are good teams. So you can't sleep on Hardin-Simmons. They have probably one of the most spectacular players in the nation in Nathaniel Jack. You have one of the best shot blockers in the country in Jason Jones, and he's not even at 100% apparently. And you've got other guys. I was going through the top 20 or the rankings of the NCAA for this team, and I was blown away that guys like Caleb Spoon lead or high in the country national rankings in terms of 3-point shots. Christian O'Neal, free throw percentage is 10th best in the country. By the way, Justin Jones, he is the best in the country at blocks, plain and simple, totals and per average. Nathan Jack ranks in the nation in double-doubles, third most with 21. He's played the most minutes in the entire country and most minutes per game in the entire country. By the way, 20th on that list is Dwayne Hopper at 20th in total minutes. This is a very good team that cannot be dismissed. And so is Whitman. Whitman comes in with a lot of weapons that people don't appreciate, especially being out there on the West Coast. You've got first team all conference and honorable mentions and second teams, et cetera, et cetera. The player of the year in the conference, and Tim Howell averages 20 points a game and shoots 81% from the free throw line. They even rank nationally in the 7th highest points per game in the country. They're going to go up against a Hardin-Simmons team that's 10th best in the country in points per game. That matchup is going to be fascinating, and it's two different styles. My concern with Whitman, they tend to play to the other opponent. So whatever the other opponent is playing, that's what they will play. That may play in the hands of Hardin-Simmons a little bit. On the other side, you got Marietta and Rochester. Marietta had a little bit of a glitch in the middle of the season where they just struggled a little bit. Rochester had it at the end of the season. I think both teams have figured it out, and I like this matchup quite a bit because I don't think either one has a dominating spot. A.J. Edwards, darn good inside, but it doesn't mean Rochester doesn't have some really good guys on the inside as well. If you look at Rochester's inside presence, you can't take away from the fact that Zach Ayers, stands 6'10", 12 points a game, shoots 59% from the floor. You could probably argue they don't use him enough, but who knows? Sam Bohr-Smith, maybe one of the best players in the country, a Jostens finalist, 16 points a game, 5.5 rebounds a game, 2.7 assists a game. Or I should say steals a game, 3.5 assists a game. These two games on Friday night in Marietta are going to be must-watch television. I'm glad I'm not picking winners because I could see anybody coming out of this. In the lower left at Babson, you got Christopher Newport trying to get back to Salem. They've had the spotlight on them the entire season. I feel like they've underperformed. I think they've got some flaws in the ointment. McFarland just hasn't been playing the way I expected him to this season. Keene State, once again, the Cinderella. You could argue maybe overmatched. Last year, these two teams faced in the exact same scenario, and Christopher Newport went on to win. I don't expect that different, but Keene State's got confidence now. They've done this twice in a row. They're not scared of Christopher Newport. And with Christopher Newport maybe a little bit off kilter a little bit, maybe this is a chance for Keene State to pull yet another upset, potentially. And then you go down and you've got Babson versus Tufts. This is a juggernaut of a game, in my opinion. There's no reason to think that this isn't going to be really darn good. By the way, I realize the stream may have broken up a little bit on some of you, but it looks like things are back to normal. Babson Tufts is going to be a tremendous game. Tufts looks like they're better with Paleshi back. I still worry that Paleshi, I don't even think he's 75%, but I'm not basing that on anything anybody's told me. Here's the key. If Babson wants to go up tempo, I'm not sure Tufts can do it because I'm not sure Paleshi can do it. If Babson plays more of Tufts style, that's going to play into Tufts' hand. And will Babson feel any pressure? They were in Salem 2 years ago. Are they feeling any pressure in Flannery's final year to get back? And how will that pressure manifest itself? Fascinating matchup. And this Elite Eight game, heck, even if it's Keene State, it doesn't matter the matchups here in the Elite Eight. It's going to be one to watch. If it's Keene State, then we've got this Cinderella who could knock off another Titan. If it's Christopher Newport, the matchup either with Babson or Tufts to get to Salem. And Babson and CNU have been two teams we've been looking at all season as favorites to get to Salem. And one of them, at least one of them, won't make it. You go to the upper right. Middlebury has been on a charge. They've been tearing through teams like a hot knife through butter, to use a very popular saying. Endicott, though, has looked good. Endicott beat Middlebury earlier in the season. But this, don't even use that as a comparison. We're talking night and day different with Middlebury now. First off, it's at Middlebury. I know Endicott's earlier season game was there too, but the atmosphere is going to be different. Pepin's going to be jammed. It's going to be rocking. Middlebury also, since they lost their team's leading scorer to the Skyac, has been unstoppable. Here's another one of those addition by subtraction. We've seen it in Augustana. We've seen it in some other teams where the addition has come by a subtraction. Endicott's good. I just wonder how overwhelming Middlebury has now become. On the other side, you got Susquehanna versus Williams. And to be honest with you, here's one of those crazy scenarios. Remember earlier in the season, if you were a fan of Hoopsville and been watching, I talked about how at one point in the NESCAC, Team A beat Team B, who beat Team C, who beat Team D, who beat Team A. I don't remember the exact order, but it was Williams and Amherst and Trinity and somebody else in that group. And basically, that's how it had turned out. A had beaten B, B had beaten C, C had beaten D, and D had beaten A. Susquehanna lost to Scranton twice this year. Williams just steamrolled Scranton. Okay. That should probably mean Williams has got your favorite, right? Susquehanna beat Trinity, and Trinity beat Williams. I think both teams have question marks. Both teams are unexpectedly here. Susquehanna's been good all year. Frank Marcenic says it's one of the best teams he's got this season, or in his career maybe. They've got to prove it. Williams is back in this spotlight under a new coach. Last time they were here, it was Mike Maker with Duncan Robinson and Mayer inside and other guys. The spotlight's on now. The pressure's on. And I think this game is going to be a lot of flaws and question marks being remedied and being taken care of or being fully exposed. That one's the wild card game in this group. And then you go down to Holland, and this is the wild card pod. Hanover, the highest seed remaining in the tournament in this grouping, has to go play on the road, which is unfortunate. They're going to have to play at Hope, which is an incredible environment. So Hanover's going to have some challenges here. Hope's got the advantage, but Hope has never, well, I shouldn't say that. Hope has often not lived up to the expectations, especially at home. Illinois Wesleyan, remember the win Illinois Wesleyan had on them a couple years ago? I think it was in the second round in double overtime against a really good Hope squad. Hope's really good, but I almost feel like sometimes being at home can be a detriment. I think Christopher Newport proved last year you don't have to be at home. Hanover's got nothing to lose. They are a completely unknown team here. I think Hope's got some advantages inside, but Hanover might prove me wrong there. Hanover's a good shooting team. They're a quality team. I like them. Their head coach is a pretty solid coach. People don't realize this Hanover team, after a couple of years being down, has been good for years before that. The home court advantage would make you think you got to go with Hope. I don't think you can. I think this game might be tighter than people realize. That being said, Hanover just got past North Central. I don't know if North Central's on par with Hope. If you go by that, then you're going to say Hope's going to probably come away with this one. But it's wide open. And then Wartburg, Augustana, coin flip it. You heard Greg Giovanine just a short time ago talk about this Wartburg squad and what they did to the previous two opponents. Can they keep that hot shooting going on? And by the way, that hot shooting was one half of a game. In both their games against River Falls and against Benedictine, it was one half where they shot the lights out of the building. Both times it happened to be the first half. Can they keep that going to the second half? It's the second weekend. And can they do that in a very different arena that is Hope? I don't know. Listen, I can't count out Wartburg. Not that it's a direct relation, but if you look at the women's side, they did this last year, and they completely surprised everybody to a championship weekend. There's no saying and reason we shouldn't expect Wartburg to do this. By the way, on the bracket, Williams and Wartburg are side by side. You know what they have in common? They're both the 6th seeds in their conference tournaments. The difference is Wartburg won. It was the only way they were getting in. Williams had to get to the title game, I felt, to assure themselves a spot in. They both got in. They're both 6 seeds. They're both in the sectional playoff, sectional weekend. Outstanding. I think the men's games are going to be a thrill a minute. They're going to start as early as 5 o'clock. They're going to start as late as 8 o'clock. We're going to get some great basketball, and it's definitely going to be worth tuning in for. On the women's side, upper left, Amherst is the beast. Amherst is the juggernaut. Amherst is the be-all and end-all. I feel bad for Babson, but Babson could certainly give them a game. I don't discount their abilities. I think Babson proved by getting past Messiah and FDU Florham, they're not to be trifled with. I think they're a good team. The problem is Amherst is on another level this season. Their defense is the clear reason for that. These two did not play this year. No, they did, back on the second game of the season. And Babson lost 67-62. So you can't discount this game. I think Amherst is better, but so is Babson. Babson's really impressed me the last half of this season. This may be Amherst's toughest test of the entire tournament, and that's nothing against the Eagles of Mary Washington, who are within 9 of Amherst. Dartmouth and New Paltz on the other side. You're talking about the Cinderellas of these two. One of those Cinderellas is going to keep on dancing. I feel bad because I don't think either team can compete with Amherst or Babson. That's not a shot at Dartmouth or New Paltz, but Amherst and Babson are on a different level. This is also at LaFrac, which is going to play in Amherst's hands. GP Gromacki has lost a total of 2 games in Amherst since he took over by a total of 2 points. They've lost 2 games by 2 points. Period. Amherst is tough to beat at home. If Babson's got the best chance, nothing against Mass Dartmouth or New Paltz, but I don't see it happening. But that's why they play the game. Ohio Northern and Geneseo in the match of who is hosting this. Geneseo, as we all know, the NCAA had originally given them the envelope, and then they took it away and gave it to Ohio Northern. This one is in Ada, Ohio. Listen, Geneseo is as you know, the team I've been quietly rooting on. What they've gone through, win or lose, amazing, okay? Ohio Northern is finally onto the second weekend after a number of years of trying to get there. I kind of like this matchup because it's a matchup of unknowns, and I'm not really sure who comes out of it. I can make an argument for both of them. In the lower left, it's Christopher Newport and Hope, and talk about it, an awesome X's and O's game. Brian Morehouse coming on talking about this one. This one is going to be fascinating to watch. Christopher Newport, I've said this before, and I think I'm correct on this number. I might be off because I'm saying off the top of my head. 9 players, 5'10" or taller, 7 of them or 6 of them are 6 foot taller, and he goes 15 deep on the bench. Hope, Brian Morehouse has got a terrific team. He's a terrific coach. Maybe underappreciated how good a coach he is. This one is going to be fun to watch. Geez. You could make an argument, and this is nothing against Ohio Northern, excuse me, as my cold is acting up. This is nothing against Ohio Northern or Geneseo, but I think Christopher Newport Hope, whoever wins that's got the leg up to get to the championship weekend. I'm not basing on that anything concrete. Ohio Northern and Geneseo could completely prove me wrong in that one. But there's something about this Christopher Newport Hope game that just makes me think one of those two teams is the juggernaut. That said, I will also say this. Christopher Newport Hope could also beat each other up so much that whoever wins the Ohio Northern Geneseo game may get the advantage. So consider that. Earlier on, you heard me mistakenly say St. Thomas was in Minneapolis. I was thinking about the flight, which would have probably gone into Minneapolis. Not that St. Thomas is clearly in St. Paul. I do apologize again for that. Really interesting matchups here. Let's start with the Whitman-Trinity game. Trinity knows the Northwest pretty well. I don't think they're going to be surprised by Whitman. I think Whitman knows what Trinity can do pretty well. But this is a game of unknown teams. They've never played each other. Fren and Hill have never coached against each other. Whitman's playing above themselves. They're playing very well. They beat Puget Sound. They've played nothing but Northwestern schools. My only concern, though, is that will develop maybe for the team a little bit of weirdness since they don't know their opponent now. I don't know how that translates into a game, but maybe they're not ready for Trinity. Trinity's got a lot to prove. They're trying to prove. They wanted to get to this weekend. They want to get to the championship weekend. They only have one loss. The matchup in my mind, I don't think favors either of them, though I kind of lean towards Trinity, but Whitman has already shown that you cannot discount them. The concern I have for Whitman was the end of the Puget Sound game. They didn't finish the game. You got to finish the game against Trinity. Trinity is ready. And then St. Thomas Marymount. This is a completely different styles. This is completely different mentality. Marymount comes out of that CAC, which is bruising and grinding. They don't mind going to the free throw line. It meant they stopped someone from scoring. It means they're going there to earn their points. St. Thomas doesn't exactly play that kind of style. They played some tough games, certainly, but not the style that Marymount will utilize. Marymount's going to have their motivational teammate there who's cleared to travel for this game. I love the matchup here. It's a very different matchup, one we don't normally get to see. And as I said with Coach Ruth Sinn earlier, their trip out to McDaniel doesn't necessarily prepare them for Marymount. I like St. Thomas in this. I think Marymount's playing a little bit above themselves, but I would not be surprised if Marymount walks out of that with a win. The problem is they're playing at St. Thomas, and that's a tough place to play. And then in the lower right, this is probably the Final Four bracket on the women's side of not being in the Final Four. Tufts, Scranton, Oshkosh, WashU. And consider that, folks, it's 4 teams from around the country. That's how much Division III has spread and gotten better. Scranton's going to want to avenge their loss to Tufts. 2 very defensive-minded teams. This is not going to be high scoring in any way, shape, or form. I think last year it was in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Maybe it was higher than that. I don't expect this higher than the 60s. Both teams are going to try and dictate their way and hit some big shots. I like how Tufts has played. I don't know if Scranton honestly can compete with them. Scranton, as I've seen them both on video and in person, sometimes underwhelms me. And that's not a shot at the team or anything. I guess I was expecting more dominating from their 2 players on the inside, and I haven't seen that domination. That said, I think Tufts sometimes walks a tightrope a little bit, and they've had it easy so far. They had a 21-point win over St. Joseph and a 20-point win over Husson, whereas Scranton has had to earn it so far. If there's one advantage in this matchup, it's Scranton, who's already learned to claw and fight in this tournament, and Tufts hasn't. But Tufts has also gone toe-to-toe with Amherst, and if any team that goes toe-for-toe with Amherst, you got to like. On the other side, Oshkosh versus WashU. It's at WashU. You always got to favor Nancy Fay in that case. But Brad Fisher's got a good team here. And they really, outside of the tough game with Calvin, they surprisingly dominated DePaul in their game. I kind of like this matchup of what ifs and unknowns a little bit here. I like Nancy Fay's bunch. Again, kind of like Scranton, though, they haven't blown me away. They've maybe been a little bit underwhelming, and maybe that's just me misinterpreting it over video. I haven't had a chance to see them in person. The problem is it's Nancy Fay. It's the Bears. They're good. They're always good. They're more susceptible than they were back in their heyday. But that's, as Nancy will tell you, is because a lot of young girls are playing basketball now. There's talent across Division III now. That's going to be a fun little foursome, and it's going to be big games, just like the Marietta one on the men's side. So that's kind of my take on things. I don't know if I answered your questions. I certainly am not going to give you winners, so I apologize for that. But that's just kind of my take on where I think those games are going to play out. And with that note, we're going to wrap up Hoopsville. I don't think we had any other questions, and I appreciate you tuning in, though. A long show, a lot of content. We got to get going because I've got to get to Marietta. A reminder again. Oh, we will cover one more thing before we get going, but a reminder again that the plan is to be on the air with Hoopsville on Sunday night at 7 o'clock. That is our plan. But we are coming back from Marietta, and there is a winter storm predicted. Whether that storm stays south, what its timing is, and whatnot. I saw one forecast where I'm driving through snow from Marietta straight home the entire time. I've seen another forecast where we're not going to get hit till later in the day, so maybe I can get out of town and get most of the trip done before I hit some snow. I don't mind driving in snow. I enjoy winter travel. It's all the other drivers that drive me crazy, and that's what will slow me down or cause some problems. So as a result, if we are delayed or we just don't have enough time to pull Hoopsville together that night, we will push it to Monday afternoon, most likely, with Monday night being our fallback. It really kind of hampers a little bit of our scheduling and our planning for Salem, but that's what we will do to make sure we get a show on the air. Hopefully it's Sunday, hopefully it's 7 o'clock, but just be advised we may have to delay it. I do want to mention the Hoopsville fundraiser. It did come to a close officially, as you probably know. I don't have the ability to call it up right now. I apologize. Normally we could, but our computer was having so many problems in the last. The computer's been having issues. Plain and simple is the best way to describe it. As a result, I can't show you the show page. But we raised 83% of our goal. It's the first time in the 4 years we've done it. We didn't hit our goal. Now, we went for a large goal on purpose, but we had 68 people who donated. A number of the last ones were anonymous, but Bowdoin College made a donation of $85. So we got there. We'll get, I think we're going to end up keeping, of the 8,200, I think we're going to end up keeping about 7,300 of it. There's fees and whatnot that we lose about 10% of it. So that money is on its way to the bank, and we appreciate it. That will pay for a lot of bills like getting this computer seriously upgraded. It has done well for 3 years, but in the last 2 months, last month, it has not been enjoying itself. And trust me, if you asked Ruth Sinn, it was a problem today. And if you ask my counterparts at D3 Sports, they know it was causing me problems the last few days. Nonetheless, your donations mean a lot. I did want to point out one. There's been a lot, by the way. Art Valley, a significant $500 donation. Thank you very much. Greg Hardy, a nice donation. Matt Rissler, a nice donation. Thank you so much. But one of the donations, St. Joseph College of Brooklyn, a nice donation of $160. Thank you very much. But one of the ones I wanted to mention was a donation from, in memory of Lanny Lobdell and Ed Elson. I hope I said those names correctly. Great Titans who love D3 hoops. I was told that this was made in their honor. They have passed, Illinois Wesleyan men. And they enjoyed the show. They enjoyed D3 hoops so much that this was a donation. It was of $500 in their honor to the show. I very, very much am moved by this. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. We will spend that particular $500 extremely well, and we greatly appreciate it. I will get more information on those two fine gentlemen. I know one of them was a sports information director before Stu Stalowitz, who is currently at Illinois Wesleyan. But we will get information and honor them in an appropriate way. But thank you, everybody who donated. We raised $8,285 out of the goal of $10,000. Again, we missed our mark. But to be honest, we raised more than we did last year. We raised more than we did the year before. The only mark that we didn't raise more of was the first year when we raised a little over $11,000. So you all wonder where this money goes. It pays to replace computers. It goes to pay bills. The internet and electricity alone in 1 year can ramp itself up. It goes to travel, to allow us during the season to travel and go to other places. We will start booking 1 or 2 trips for next year, to say the least. We spent money sometimes to go to the NCAA convention, for example, to make sure we cover Division III basketball the best way possible and catch some games. We've gone to COSIDA during the summer to try and make sure that we connect with sports information directors and do the best job we can in profiling these schools, and that's why we felt COSIDA was important. We didn't go to the convention this year. We're not going to go to COSIDA this year, so that we can focus on going somewhere for basketball next year. So we're changing it up just a little bit. So on that note, we're going to close out the show. Really long one, almost 3 hours. Did not plan that. Planned to go maybe 2.5, but we went 3. Again, I'm heading off to Marietta. If you are in Marietta and you see me, please come up and say hello. Except if I'm calling the game, if I'm in the middle of doing the job, please let me do the job. But otherwise, please come up and say hello. Greatly appreciate it. I'll be there for both nights. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing Marietta play in their gym. I've seen Marietta play, but not in their gym. I've been to their gym, but not seen Marietta play. I'm looking to combine those two. I know it's sold out, and looking forward to seeing what it looks like with a full gym. And on that note, we're going to sign off. I want to thank everybody who came on the show tonight. Brian Morehouse from Hope, Trevor Woodruff from Scranton, Craig Carse from Hardin Simmons, Ruth Sinn from St. Thomas, from Michelle Fren from Whitman, Kevin App from Williams, and Gray Giovanni from Augustana. Almost a list you would have expected on the Marathon Show. I want to thank their sports information directors as well and their staffs for their assistance in helping us put the show together. And with that note, we sign off. I want to thank D3Hoops.com, the presenting sponsor of D3Hoops.com, of Hoopsville. Also want to thank the Women's Basketball Coaches Association and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. I should note, Thursday we'll have the Hoopsville reception for any of the coaches from the NABC who are heading to Salem for the championship weekend. You should have that information. If not, let me know. We certainly would love to thank you for your support. That is coming up on Thursday in Salem, which is a reminder, by the way, that we will not have a Thursday evening show as we have in the past. The last couple of years, we decided to forego that and save that material for Friday in the pregame shows. We'll talk more about that on our Sunday broadcast. Also want to thank the City of Salem, the sponsor of the hotline all season long. Of course, they have the men's championship, and if you have nothing to do or you got a team rooting on, I highly encourage you to go to Salem. It is worth the trip. It is worth the experience. They do an amazing job. And of course, I want to thank George Fox, our first sponsor of the show. Final note before we go, the carousel is already a-spinning. Milliken's coach resigned, though many would tell you it feels more like a firing. Speaking of which, Muhlenberg's men's coach resigned. It feels more to me like he was fired. Shenandoah's coach was let go as well, amongst with many other coaches that have been either retired, resigned, fired, etc. We can go back to the Mount St. Joseph story that we covered a couple months ago, or about 6 weeks ago. So the carousels are spinning. Keep up with us. We'll let you know what's happening in Division III at D3Hoops.com, along with all of our playoff information as well. That's going to do it. Thank you for tuning in to Hoopsville tonight. I am your host, Dave McHugh. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. We'll be back on the air Sunday night, weather permitting. Hope you'll join us here. And, of course, we'll be in Salem to wrap up the season as well. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here on the next show on Sunday night.